My daughter booked me a room at an inn for Thanksgiving. She told me while her husband was measuring my dining room. It's really nice, Dad, Leah said, holding up her phone. Not one of those sad highway places. They have fireplaces in the lobby. Owen stretched my tape measure from the china cabinet to the window and called out, 17 feet, 9 inches. My son Ben wrote the number on the back of a catering estimate. I looked from one of them to the next. Why do I need an inn? The three of them went still in different ways. Owen kept his head down. Ben stopped clicking his pen. Leah's smile stayed exactly where it was, which somehow made it worse. We just thought this would be easier, she said. For who? Nobody answered. On her screen was a photograph of a tasteful room with a king-size bed, 2 beige chairs, and a bowl of green apples nobody had ever eaten. Beneath it were the dates. Check-in Wednesday. Check-out Friday. They had reserved my absence before asking for my house. 3 hours earlier, I'd been standing in my barn, deciding whether a walnut board was too good for the back slats of a rocking chair. A cabinet maker can waste an impressive amount of time having ethical debates with lumber. Walnut has opinions. So does cherry. Pine will accept whatever happens to it, which may be why people use it for coffins and cheap bookshelves. The rocker was for nobody in particular. That was what I told myself anyway. I had started it in August after finding the curved ash runners tucked behind an old tool chest. I drew the shape on brown paper, cut the joints by hand, then set the unfinished frame near the east window where the afternoon light showed every mistake. Retirement had not arrived as a clean event. I still took small jobs, mostly from people who had heard I could reproduce a drawer pull or make a crooked door behave. But I no longer wanted entire kitchens or clients who said rustic when they meant make it look expensive and old. At 64, I had developed the dangerous confidence to tell people what their wood actually needed. That Tuesday morning, the rocker needed a back. I was holding the walnut against it when a car horn sounded outside. Leah never knocked. She opened the side door and called, "Dad?" in the tone people use when entering a house where they expect to be welcome, but suspect the owner may have fallen down. In the barn. She appeared in the doorway wearing a camel-colored coat and white sneakers that had never met mud. My daughter was 36 and could make standing in a barn look like a scheduling error. "Oh," she said, seeing the rocker. "That's pretty. High praise. Who's it for?" "Me." She laughed, then realized I wasn't joking. "Since when do you rock?" "Since I built a chair." She came closer and ran one finger along the arm. Leah knew furniture better than she pretended. As a teenager, she could identify maple from birch, before most people knew trees came in varieties. For one summer, she had worked beside me, sanding cabinet doors and singing badly to every song on the radio. Then she discovered event planning, clean fingernails, and the pleasure of telling florists where to stand. "You should make 2, she said. "Why?" "One chair always looks lonely." She said it casually, already turning toward the house, but the words stayed behind. "I brought coffee," she added. "Owen and Ben are coming." That should have warned me. Leah never brought coffee unless she needed consent for something she had already arranged. In the kitchen, she set a cardboard tray beside yesterday's mail. My name was written on one cup. The other said LEA, as if the barista had run out of patience halfway through her. She moved a stack of newspapers off the table, frowned at a ring left by my mug, and wiped it with the sleeve of her coat. "I've been thinking about Thanksgiving," she said. "I bought the turkey last week." "You bought a turkey?" I was there when it happened. "Dad, it's the first week of November. They freeze them for a reason." She opened my refrigerator as though she doubted the bird existed. The turkey was in the freezer below, but Leah still examined the shelves. Mustard, eggs, a jar of pickles, leftover chili. Her face softened briefly. "You're eating, right?" "I have witnesses. Pickles aren't a meal. They are if you commit." That got a smile out of her. Leah worried in sharp little bursts. She could forget to call me for 10 days and then appear convinced I was living on crackers. I had learned to accept concern in whatever shape it arrived. She shut the refrigerator. "Owen's brother is coming this year. Richard? His name is Grant. That was my second guess. You've met him 4 times. Then he should have made a stronger impression." She gave me the look she had inherited from her mother, chin slightly down, mouth held still, eyes asking whether I intended to be difficult all day. "Owen and Grant haven't been in the same room since June," she said. "Their mother is exhausted by it. We want Thanksgiving to feel neutral. Nothing says neutral like gravy. I'm serious. So am I. Gravy has ended marriages. She pulled out a chair but didn't sit. Grant thinks Owen took advantage of him during that property deal. Owen thinks Grant tried to embarrass him in front of their father. It's all very male and stupid. Those two things often travel together. We thought the house would help. She said the house, not your house. It was a small difference. I noticed it and then immediately scolded myself for noticing. The Mercer family had eaten Thanksgiving dinner in that dining room for 27 years, including the year the oven quit and I finished the turkey on a charcoal grill in sleet. Leah had once fallen asleep under the table after drinking 2 glasses of wine and insisting she was completely sober. Ben had proposed to his wife Tara beside the stone fireplace. Even after Elaine and I divorced, the house kept the holiday the way an old sweater keeps the shape of its wearer. How many are we talking? I asked. Probably 18, maybe 22. I stared at her. Did Owen acquire relatives? A few of his parents' friends are coming, Grant's partner, and possibly Celia Vance. That name meant something to her? She waited for me to understand. The hotel woman? I guessed. She doesn't own a hotel. Then I'm out. Celia runs the Langford Hospitality account. If I land it, it could change my whole year. There it was, not just a holiday, a performance with place cards. I took a sip of coffee. It was black, the way I drank it. Leah remembered that, though she had also once given away my workbench because she thought it was scrap. 22 is a lot, I said. We can fit them. We'll do 2 long tables instead of 1. We? The side door opened before she could answer. Owen entered first, carrying a leather folder under one arm. My son-in-law was tall, neat, and permanently dressed as if someone might ask him to defend a quarterly report. Ben followed in work boots and a faded Raven sweatshirt, bringing cold air and the smell of sawdust. Morning, Ben said. He took my coffee from my hand, drank from it, and made a face. No sugar? You've known me 33 years. I keep hoping you'll improve. He put the cup back and opened the leather folder Owen was carrying. Inside were floor plans. Not plans of the whole house, just the dining room, den, and back hallway, sketched with tables and circles. Already measured off the listing photos, Ben said. But those sites distort the dimensions. Listing photos? I asked. From when you and Mom almost sold. That was 9 years ago. The internet believes in preservation, Owen said. He gave me a quick smile, then turned to kiss Leah. She adjusted his collar immediately. Their marriage operated through corrections so small you could mistake them for affection. I looked at the floor plan again. What are the circles? Chairs, Ben said. I own chairs, not 22 matching ones. Does anybody? The rental company does, Leah said. Owen started toward the dining room. Can I borrow a tape measure, Daniel? He had been coming to my house for 11 years. He knew exactly where I kept it. I found it in the drawer beside the stove and handed it over. That was the moment I could have stopped the whole thing. I could have said they were moving too fast. I could have reminded them that I was standing there, and the house wasn't a conference room they had reserved. Instead, I asked, "What do you want me to make?" All 3 faces relaxed. It happened so quickly I nearly missed it. Ben grinned. There he is. Leah squeezed my arm. I knew you'd get into this. Owen said a narrow console behind the den sofa might help with drinks. Leah wanted wooden risers for the sideboard, something tasteful at varying heights. Ben suggested I remove the swinging door between the kitchen and dining room because caterers hated it. I'm not taking down a 100-year-old door for a bartender, I said. Okay, Leah replied, in the patient voice of a woman granting an unreasonable request. The door can stay. They spread papers across my kitchen table. I listened while my Thanksgiving grew around me without ever quite including me. There would be a bartender named Max, a caterer from Annapolis, cream linens, olive napkins, low arrangements to avoid blocking conversation. The turkey I had already bought was too small and apparently came from the wrong kind of farm. You can still do your stuffing, Ben said. Everybody likes that. Except Tara. Tara thinks celery is aggressive. Tara's right, Leah said. It has strings. They laughed, and for a few minutes I did too. That was the dangerous part. They were not monsters. They were my family, leaning over my table, stealing my coffee, arguing about celery. Ben found a pencil behind the bread box. Leah opened the cabinet where I kept serving bowls without asking. Owen replaced the batteries in the wall clock because he noticed the second hand had stopped. Belonging can feel almost identical to being useful if nobody asks you to tell the difference. The first thing that unsettled me was the den. Ben walked in, looked around, and said, "We can move the rocker into the barn. My leather chair, it takes up a ton of space. It's a chair. Space is its profession. We'll put it back Friday." Leah glanced at Owen. Owen glanced at the floor plan. Then Leah said, "Actually, Dad, about Friday." That brought us to the dining room, Owen measuring, Ben writing, Leah raising her phone with the picture of the tasteful inn. I stood beside the table Elaine and I had bought unfinished in 1997 and stained ourselves over one terrible weekend. There was still a dark thumbprint underneath, where Leah, then old enough to know better, had touched the wet edge after being told not to. "Who exactly is coming?" I asked. Leah lowered the phone. "I sent you the list." "No, you didn't. I meant to. Am I on it?" The question embarrassed her. That was my first answer. "Dad, of course you're family." "That wasn't what I asked." Ben pushed away from the table. "Nobody's saying you can't come. The inn suggests otherwise." "It's one night," he said. "You hate crowds. I hate being trapped beside the bathroom at restaurants. That isn't the same thing." Owen coiled the tape measure carefully, buying time. "There are dynamics here, Daniel. In my dining room," Leah stepped closer. "Elaine isn't invited." I blinked. "Your mother hasn't come here for Thanksgiving since the divorce." "I know, but Celia knows her." So people ask questions about the house, about why Mom left, about whether this is awkward for you." "Is it?" Her mouth tightened. "It could become awkward." I looked at my daughter and finally understood that she was not protecting me from discomfort. She was protecting the room from my history. Ben rubbed the back of his neck. "Cal invited you to his cabin, didn't he?" "Last year. He'd love to have you." "You volunteered Cal now?" "Nobody volunteered anybody." Leah raised her phone again. "You don't even have to stay with Cal. I got the room so you'd have choices. 2 choices. A man who hasn't invited me and a hotel I didn't ask for." She exhaled through her nose. "You're making this sound cruel. I'm trying to hear it accurately." That silenced everybody. Outside, wind dragged dry leaves across the stone patio. Owen set my tape measure on the table. Ben stared at the floor. Leah looked at me with anger gathering behind her eyes, but beneath it was something younger and more frightened, as if my confusion had violated an agreement I didn't remember making. "I need tonight," I said. "To decide what?" she asked. "Whether my house is available?" Her face changed. Not because I had refused. I hadn't. Because until that moment, none of them had understood there was anything for me to decide. They left their coffee cups, the floor plans, and the inn reservation behind. When the side door shut, the house became so quiet I could hear the refrigerator motor click on. I gathered the papers into a stack. Under them lay yesterday's mail. There was a cream-colored envelope addressed in handwriting I had once watched fill grocery lists, birthday cards, and the margins of crossword puzzles. Elaine. I opened it standing at the kitchen table. Inside was a single folded card. "Daniel," it began. "You have a place at my table if you want it." I read the rest twice. "I'm keeping it small this year. Marisol and June, Ruth Kaplan, and Peter from the theater. Peter claims he can cook, which means we may need someone who knows how to use a fire extinguisher. You have a place at my table if you want it. Come as yourself. You don't have to bring anything or fix anything." Elaine, there was no date written at the top. No explanation for why my former wife had suddenly invited me to Thanksgiving after 8 years of careful separation. Just her blue ink and a faint smear beneath the word, "yourself," where the side of her hand must have crossed it. I set the card beside Leah's floor plans. 2 invitations. One contained a room where I could sleep after being removed from my own home. The other contained Peter, whoever Peter was, threatening a townhouse with fire. I picked up my phone and called Cal. He answered on the 6th ring. If this is about the latter, I returned it. It's in my barn. Then I returned it very successfully. Cal Donnelly had been my friend since we worked on a hotel renovation in Baltimore in 1986. He had installed 17 closet doors backward and blamed the architect. I had never trusted him with hinges again, but I trusted him with almost everything else. "What are you doing for Thanksgiving?" I asked. "Going to Arizona." That was not the answer I had expected. "Arizona?" "My sister moved to Scottsdale. She says it's a dry heat. It's November." I told her that. She said it's a dry November. I turned toward the window. Ben's truck was gone, but tire marks crossed the damp gravel where he had backed out too fast. When did you decide that? Couple months ago. Why? Leah thought you might be having people at the cabin. My cabin's shut up until March. The pipes are drained. I see. Cal was quiet for half a second. He could be an idiot about ladders, but he heard gaps in conversation better than anyone I knew. What did she do? He asked. She didn't do anything. Then why are you calling me like a man checking somebody's alibi? I slid the hotel confirmation out from under the catering estimate. Leah had printed that too, though she had shown me the reservation on her phone. The inn was called Briar Glen. The room rate was high enough to include a private apology. She's having Thanksgiving here, I said. That's normal. I'm apparently not. Cal made a sound that began as a laugh and ended somewhere else. Explain. I gave him the short version. It still took 5 minutes. When I finished, he said, "Don't let them." I leaned against the counter. That's your mature advice? You called me, not the Pope. They've already invited everybody. So, deposits were paid. With whose money? Leah's. Still not hearing your problem. This was how Cal operated. He could reduce any complicated emotional situation to the part that involved a socket wrench. If something had the wrong threads, stop turning it. I think Leah's under pressure, I said. Daniel. Owen and his brother have trouble. There's a business thing too. Daniel. And she's always cared too much about things looking right. Your daughter evicted you from Thanksgiving. She didn't evict me. She booked you a room. That's eviction with tiny shampoo bottles. I smiled despite myself. Cal's voice softened. You asked if I was having people because you wanted her story to be true. She didn't say you invited me this year. Ben did. Same stew, different spoon. I looked at Elaine's card again. Tell them no, Cal said. They'll be furious, probably. You make that sound simple. No. I make it sound brief. Brief and simple aren't the same thing. A truck rumbled past on the county road, shaking the kitchen window in its frame. Years ago, I had meant to reglaze that window. Elaine used to press 2 fingers against the loose pane when the wind came from the north because the rattling bothered her. After she moved out, I stopped noticing it unless a truck passed. I got another invitation, I said. To where? Elaine's. This time Cal's silence lasted longer. Did you fall and hit your head before or after opening the mail? It's just dinner. With Elaine? We've had dinner. You attended Leah's birthday in a restaurant. That was a hostage exchange with appetizers. It wasn't that bad. You and Elaine spent 40 minutes discussing the weather in a building with no windows. I picked up her card, then put it down again. Marisol will be there. Oh, good. If anybody enjoys you, it's Elaine's sister. Marisol likes me. Marisol once told you she hoped you came back in your next life, as a woman married to you. She'd been drinking, she'd had iced tea. I couldn't argue with that. Cal asked if Elaine knew what Leah was planning. I said I didn't think so. The envelope had been postmarked Monday, and Leah had behaved as though nobody outside her private Thanksgiving committee knew about my removal. Why'd Elaine invite you then? He asked. I don't know. You could call and ask. I could also put my hand in the garbage disposal. That seems dramatic. You haven't been divorced. No, but I've been dumped by women with excellent reasons. Before hanging up, Cal made me promise not to tell Leah she could have the house until I had slept. I told him that was already my plan. Your plans change when people cry, he said. That isn't true. I cried when you tried to charge me for those replacement hinges. You owed me $60, and you folded like laundry. After the call, I stood alone in the kitchen with both invitations. The farmhouse had 6 rooms downstairs, but silence made it feel like one enormous room with me in the middle. I carried the caterer's plans into the dining room and placed them on the table to see what Leah saw. 2 long banquet tables would run nearly the length of the room. The china cabinet would be moved to the front hall. The sideboard would become a dessert station. 6 rented chairs would extend into the den, where my leather chair would be removed and the sofa turned toward the fireplace. She had labeled everything in precise block letters: bar, coffee, coats. There was no chair marked Dad. That was childish. Nobody labeled individual seats on a room diagram. I knew that. I also examined every circle twice. I folded the plan along its original crease. My phone buzzed with a message from Ben. You okay? I typed, fine. 3 dots appeared, then. She didn't mean it the way it sounded. I wrote, how did she mean it? The dots came back, vanished, then returned, crowded, stressful. You know Leah. I did know Leah. At 13, she once organized a surprise anniversary dinner for Elaine and me, burned the sauce, and cried so violently that Elaine ended up comforting her while I cooked a second meal. At 27, she planned Ben's engagement party after being specifically asked not to, then acted wounded when Tara wanted different flowers. Leah loved people with the force of a moving crew. She carried things for you and decided where they belonged. I typed, "Did you know about the hotel before today?" This pause was longer. Yeah. But thought she'd discussed it with you. That was Ben's usual position in a family conflict. Present at the planning, absent at the responsibility. My answer was only, she hadn't. He called immediately. I let it ring, which felt ridiculous. I was not a man who ignored his son's calls. That was the sort of petty behavior I disliked in other people. It rang again. I answered, "What? Don't do that." "Do what? Send a message like that and disappear." I was standing in my kitchen. You know what I mean. In the background, I heard a cabinet close. Tara said something too low to catch. Ben moved away from her before speaking again. "Leah screwed up," he said. "She should have talked to you first. She shouldn't have talked to me at all." What does that mean? It means the conversation should never have been about where to put me while she used my house. He released a long breath. "Okay, I get it." "No, you don't. I'm trying to." "Why was my rocker going into the barn?" "What? The chair you wanted to move. Why the barn instead of another room?" "Because the barn has space. I'm talking about the rocking chair I'm building." "Oh, that." So he had already moved it. I pushed away from the counter. "Where is it?" "Back wall, under a moving blanket." "You went into my workshop before you came to the kitchen?" We needed to see how many rentals we could store there. The answer was so ordinary to him that I couldn't speak. "Dad, it's fine. I was careful. Put it back. I will. Tonight. It's raining." "Then wear a coat," his voice hardened. "You don't have to talk to me like I'm some stranger who broke in. A stranger would have asked permission." Tara spoke again behind him. This time I heard her clearly. "He's right. Ben covered the phone badly." "I'm handling it." "You're doing great," I said. "Look, everybody's wound up. Let's stop before somebody says something they can't take back. I want the rocker where you found it. I said I'd do it. Tonight." He hung up. For 20 minutes I was proud of myself. Then guilt arrived and sat down. It came with evidence. Ben had helped replace the barn roof after a storm. Leah had driven me home from a colonoscopy and stayed until the medication wore off, though she took 3 photographs of me asleep with my mouth open. Owen handled my property insurance every year and never accepted payment. They were generous. They were thoughtless. Sometimes they were both in the same breath. At 7, headlights crossed the dining room wall. Ben entered the barn without coming to the house. I watched from the kitchen window as the lights came on, 1 row at a time. A few minutes later, he carried the rocker from the back wall to its place near the east window. He removed the blanket, adjusted the chair, then stood looking at it. I almost went out. Instead, I watched him find the walnut board I had left on the bench. He held it against the unfinished back exactly as I had that morning. Then he set it down, turned off the lights, and drove away. My phone stayed quiet after that. I heated the leftover chili. I ate it standing at the counter because using the table would have required moving Leah's plans again. At 9, I took Elaine's card into the den and placed it on the arm of my leather chair. I had not spoken to her alone in 6 months. Her number was still in my phone under Elaine Mercer, though she had gone back to Elaine Alvarez after the divorce. I had changed it once, then changed it back, because Alvarez looked like a decision I wasn't entitled to make for her. I pressed call before I could improve my judgment. She answered with suspicion already in her voice. "Daniel, hello Elaine? Is something wrong?" "No." "Then why are you calling at 9:14 on a Tuesday?" I checked the clock. "It's 9:12. That's reassuring. I got your invitation." "Oh." I waited for more. Nothing came. "You invited me to Thanksgiving," I said. "I remember." "Why?" "Most people say thank you first. Thank you." "Why?" She was quiet, and I could picture her pressing her lips together, deciding how much truth I could tolerate. Finally, she said, "Because I thought you might need somewhere to go." I sat forward. "What did Leah tell you?" "Leah didn't tell me anything. Then why would I need somewhere to go?" Another pause. "Daniel," she said, much more gently, Where is your family expecting you to spend Thanksgiving? I looked at Elaine's card on the arm of my chair. They booked me a room at an inn, I said. She did not react right away. That was one of the differences between Elaine and our daughter. Leah filled silence before it could turn against her. Elaine let it finish whatever work it had started. At Briar Glen? She asked. I gripped the phone tighter. How do you know that? She asked me whether I'd ever stayed there. When? Last Thursday. The envelope had been postmarked Monday. What else did she ask? Whether I still had Cal's number, whether his cabin was comfortable in November, whether you'd be offended if somebody offered to pay for a hotel. And you didn't think that counted as telling you anything? She told me disconnected facts and hoped I'd be polite enough not to assemble them. You assembled them. I was married to you for 31 years. I know what it looks like when somebody is preparing to decide what you'll tolerate. The wind caught the loose window in the kitchen. I heard the faint rattle from where I sat. What did you tell her? I asked. That Briar Glen has good reviews, and Cal's cabin has no insulation. It has insulation. It has mouse nests between the walls. That isn't the same thing. Despite everything, I laughed. It surprised both of us. Elaine said, Did she ask permission to use the house? Not exactly. Did she ask whether you wanted to attend? She said the guest list was complicated. Daniel. I know. Do you? The laugh disappeared. That used to be the question that turned every argument between us. I would acknowledge a fact, usually with admirable calm, and Elaine would ask whether I actually understood it. I hated the question because understanding to her required movement. It wasn't enough to recognize that something hurt. She wanted me to stop helping it happen. I told them I needed the night, I said. Good. You don't have to sound shocked. I'm trying not to frighten this rare and delicate development. You invited me before you knew any of that for certain, I suspected. So, I'm a rescue project. No. A holiday charity case? You've never been this determined to insult yourself on my behalf. I got up and walked to the dining room. The plans were still spread across the table, though I had folded the floor diagram. Through the doorway, I could see the dark kitchen and the glass reflecting a pale version of me. Why then? I asked. Elaine breathed out slowly. Because I've watched you turn into the caretaker of an empty museum. That's dramatic. Yes, Daniel, I'm Latina. We're issued drama with our birth certificates. You were born in Delaware. My mother compensated. That sounded so much like the woman I had known that I had to sit down. She continued before I could answer. Every holiday they come to your house because it's easy. You cook. You set up the tables. Ben borrows whatever he needs. Leah takes pictures of the mantle. Then everybody leaves and you spend 2 days putting the rooms back. They help. They carry plates into the kitchen and ask where the foil is. You haven't been here for Thanksgiving in years. No, but Leah sends photographs. I look toward the mantle. Last year Leah had arranged eucalyptus along the stone and complained that my brass clock ruined her color scheme. I moved the clock upstairs for the day. It was still there. They love me, I said. I didn't say they didn't. You're making them sound like adults who have gotten used to a comfortable arrangement. The restraint in her voice bothered me more than anger would have. Elaine had once been furious enough with me to throw a lemon into the sink so hard it split. Now she sounded like someone explaining weather conditions to a traveler. What exactly are you inviting me into? I asked. Dinner with your sister, who has expressed hopes for my reincarnation. Marisol has matured. She mailed me a birthday card addressed to Daniel Mercer, regrettably. That was 3 years ago. And Ruth Kaplan hates turkey. Ruth hates poultry as a category. She's bringing salmon. To Thanksgiving, I'm no longer responsible for other people's decisions. That sentence landed between us. I wondered if she meant it to. And Peter? I asked. You don't know Peter. That's why I'm asking. He builds sets with me. He's recently divorced and believes sourdough is a personality. Is he the fire risk? He bought a culinary torch. Why? He won't say. I ran my thumb along the edge of Leah's floor plan. Will it be awkward if I come? Yes. Her answer was immediate. I waited. She said, You and I haven't had an honest conversation in years. Marisol will watch you like you're a raccoon near an open trash can. June will kick her under the table. Ruth will bring fish to a turkey holiday. And Peter may set my curtains on fire. I can promise awkward. That's a strong sales pitch. I'm not selling you anything. Then why point it out? Because you asked. You've spent half your life choosing artificial peace over honest discomfort. If you come, you should know which one I'm offering. I close my eyes. From the kitchen came the hum of the refrigerator. Somewhere upstairs, the heat clicked through an old pipe. That house had hundreds of small sounds, most of which I had learned during the years Elaine slept beside me. She used to wake at everyone. I used to tell her to ignore them. I'll let you know tomorrow, I said. All right, thank you for inviting me. You're welcome. She hesitated before ending the call. Daniel, yes? Don't come because you want to punish Leah. I wouldn't. You might. You're calmer than she is, but calm people can be vindictive. They just use complete sentences. I'll keep that in mind. Come if you want to be here. After we hung up, I remained at the table until the room went cold. I slept badly. Around midnight, I decided Leah could use the house if she let me attend. At 1, I decided I didn't want to attend any meal where my presence required negotiation. At 2:30, I considered Briar Glen. The apples in the photograph had looked peaceful. At 4, I remembered a Christmas 6 years earlier. Elaine and I had been divorced for 2 years. Leah wanted both of us at the farmhouse because she was tired of maintaining separate traditions. Elaine agreed on the condition that nobody pretend the divorce had just happened. She would come as my former wife, not as a missing piece being temporarily returned. Leah seated us together. When Elaine moved her place card, Leah cried in the pantry. I found her there, mascara running, clutching a bag of dinner rolls. She said she wanted one normal holiday. I took the place card from Elaine's chosen seat and put it back beside mine. Elaine stayed through dinner. She was gracious. She complimented my turkey, helped Tara with the dishes, and left before dessert. I told myself I had saved Christmas. 2 weeks later, she called and said she would never attend another holiday at the farmhouse. You used me to keep Leah calm, she said. She was hurting, so was I. I had no answer then. At 4 in the morning, 6 years late, one arrived. Leah had learned that the person most willing to absorb the damage was the person to whom we assigned it. By 7, I was dressed. I moved the floor plans off the dining table and stacked them beside the hotel confirmation. I put Elaine's invitation in my shirt pocket. Then I made eggs, burned the first 2 because I was watching the driveway, and ate the second attempt with hot sauce. At 7:40, Leah texted, "Up?" I wrote, "Yes." "Can I come by before work?" I nearly answered that she had never required an invitation before, but the joke felt too sharp. "Yes." She arrived 12 minutes later, carrying no coffee. Her hair was tied back, and she wore black trousers with the same camel coat. Without makeup, she looked tired and much younger. She stood just inside the side door, instead of walking past me. "Did you sleep?" she asked. "Some. I didn't." "I'm sorry." "You don't look sorry. There are limits to what my face can do before 8. She almost smiled. Then she saw the papers stacked on the counter. "I canceled the inn," she said. "That surprised me. You didn't have to do that yet. I should never have booked it." "No, I know how it looked." "How did it look?" "Like I was pushing you out." "You were." Her eyes flashed. "Can we not make every word as ugly as possible?" "I'm not changing the words, Leah. I made a mistake." She unbuttoned her coat, then buttoned it again. When she was nervous, her hands sought tasks. There was nothing in reach she could rearrange. "You can stay here," she said. "Obviously. Stay here? During Thanksgiving. This is your home." "Yes, it is. We'll seat you at the main table. Owen can move one of his parents' friends to the den." I stared at her. She heard herself a second too late. "That came out wrong," she said. "Which table was I at before?" "There wasn't a seating plan yet. There's a floor plan with 22 chairs. Those are circles, Dad. They don't have names. Apparently mine does now." She looked away toward the refrigerator. "I'm trying to fix it. You're trying to put me into the party you planned in my house after I objected to being removed from it. What else do you want me to do?" "Ask." "Ask what?" I waited. Her shoulders lowered. She understood, but understanding offended her. "Can we use the house for Thanksgiving?" she said. "No." The word was quieter than I expected. Leah blinked. "No? No?" I canceled the hotel. That was the right thing to do. I said you could come. To my house. "You know what I mean? I know exactly what you mean." Color rose along her neck. "So, this is punishment." "No, I'm not willing to host a family gathering where my inclusion became a correction." "Then we start over. You're invited. You were always invited." An invitation issued after someone refuses exile isn't an invitation. She took 2 steps into the kitchen. 22 people have made plans. The caterer has a deposit, Owen told his parents. Grant agreed to come because we said it was neutral territory. It isn't neutral, it's mine. You've always called it the family house. I was wrong. That hurt her. I saw it before she hid it. You don't mean that? I mean you confuse being welcome here with having a claim on me. On you? She laughed once, without humor. This isn't about claiming you. It's one dinner. Then have it somewhere else. Where? Your house. It won't fit. Invite fewer people. I can't uninvite Owen's family. But you could uninvite your father. Her mouth opened, closed. I hated the satisfaction that gave me. Elaine was right. Calm people could be vindictive. We simply made sure our knives were clean. I softened my voice. I'm not saying you can never use the house again. I'm saying not this time. Not after this. Tears filled her eyes, and my body reacted before my judgment did. I nearly reached for her, nearly told her we would figure it out, by which I would have meant I would surrender slowly enough to call it compromise. She wiped beneath one eye with the heel of her hand. What are you going to do? She asked. I've accepted another invitation. Cal's in Arizona. That answered one question. She had known, not Cal's. Her gaze dropped to my shirt pocket. The top edge of Elaine's cream-colored card was visible. Leah stared at it. Then she looked at me as though I had not merely refused her, but chosen the one person whose empty chair had always accused us both. You're going to Mom's? She asked. Yes. She looked toward the dining room, as if Elaine might already be seated there. When did she invite you? The card came yesterday. Before I was here? It was in the mail. Leah pressed her lips together. She knew, she suspected something. Because you told her. I hadn't spoken to her. Then how would she suspect anything? I considered protecting Leah from the answer. The impulse was so automatic I felt it before I recognized it. You asked her about Briar Glen, I said, and Cal's cabin. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. She told you that? I asked why she invited me. Of course you did. What does that mean? It means Mom gets to sit there being perceptive and wise while I look like some horrible person who threw her lonely father out of his own house. The word lonely settled harder than the rest. She didn't call you horrible. She doesn't have to. That's the whole thing with Mom. She just asks a question and waits for everybody else to feel ashamed. You asked her where I could go. I was gathering information about disposing of me. Stop saying things like that. Then give me better words. She turned away, walked to the sink, then back. The kitchen was too familiar for a dignified retreat. Every direction led her past something she had known all her life. I wanted one day, she said. One dinner, without everybody staring at the empty space between you and Mom. Your mother hasn't attended in 6 years. That doesn't mean she isn't here. Her voice cracked on the last word. I said nothing. Leah pointed toward the dining room. That table is where she told us she was moving out. My mind brought back the afternoon without permission. Elaine standing with both hands on the chair opposite mine. Ben refusing to sit. Leah demanding to know whether there was someone else. The ceiling fan turning above us even though the room was cold. I know, I said. Every holiday somebody asks where she is. Owen's mother asks whether you two are friendly. Tara watches me whenever Mom's name comes up. The house makes everybody think we're still some family that got interrupted. We are still a family, you know what I mean? I'm not sure I do. She gripped the back of a kitchen chair. At my house, it would just look small. Here it looks intentional. There it was. A sentence honest enough to embarrass us both. You wanted the house to tell a story, I said. I wanted people to have a good day. And I didn't fit the story. You fit too much. That surprised me. She wiped her face, angry now that she had cried. You're everywhere here. Your tools are in the mudroom. Your jacket is on the hook. You walk in with a dish towel over your shoulder, and people assume you're in charge. Then you make those little jokes when I'm trying to keep things moving. What little jokes? About the napkins, the bartender, the turkey. I bought a turkey. I know you bought a turkey, she shouted it, then lowered her voice. I needed this to be mine. In my house. Yes. The answer came out before she could improve it. For the first time, I understood something that made the situation both clearer and less forgivable. Leah had not removed me because I was irrelevant. She had removed me because I was impossible to disguise. The farmhouse could be borrowed, styled, and photographed, but with me inside it, the house remained mine. I would know which floorboard squeaked and where the extra salt was kept. I would be the father in the doorway of the family portrait she was trying to direct. You should have asked me to help, I said. You always take over. I thought I did whatever you wanted. You do, and then everybody thanks you. We stared at each other. It was almost funny. I had spent years believing my compliance made me invisible. Leah resented the attention it earned me. You could have hosted in your own home, I said. We already covered that. No, you said it would look small. Her face hardened. You have no idea what my work is like. I know you're good at it. That isn't enough. Celia doesn't hire good. She hires people who can create an experience. So, you created one where your father sleeps at an inn. Celia wasn't going to know that. I let the silence answer. Leah picked up her handbag from the counter. Her movements had become clipped and careful, which meant she was close to losing control. What am I supposed to tell everyone? The truth. That my father changed his mind? That you arranged to use his home without including him, and he said no. She stared at me. You really want me humiliated? No. You just want me to describe the humiliating thing in detail. I want you to stop making me responsible for hiding it. The sentence sounded like Elaine. I heard it as soon as it left my mouth, and so did Leah. She gave a small, bitter smile. How long did you talk to her? About 20 minutes. Impressive. 20 minutes and you're already speaking fluent Mom. That isn't fair. No, Dad. Fair would be you, remembering who stayed. I felt the blow exactly where she intended it. After Elaine left, Leah had called every evening for a month. She stocked my freezer with meals I didn't want and labeled them in thick black marker. Ben came on Saturdays and found repairs the house didn't need. They had stayed close. They had made sure I ate. Elaine rebuilt her life, while they had lived with the wreckage of mine. You did stay, I said, and now you're choosing her. I'm choosing an invitation where I'm wanted. Leah flinched. I regretted it, but regret did not make it untrue. She opened the side door. Cold air pushed into the kitchen. You could have just said you wanted Mom back, she said. That isn't what this is. Maybe not to you. The door shut hard enough to rattle the loose window. I stood there until I heard her car leave. At 8:17, our family group message came alive. Leah wrote, Dad canceled Thanksgiving at the farmhouse. We'll figure out another plan. Owen responded with a single thumbs up, which I found more ominous than anger. Tara wrote, Do you need help finding a venue? Ben called me directly. I turned the phone face down. A minute later, Tara sent a separate message. I'm sorry this happened. Ben is angry, but not for the reason he thinks. I read it 3 times. Then I wrote, What reason does he think? She did not answer. By 9, I was in the barn, fitting the walnut board to the rocker. The work required just enough concentration to keep me from checking my phone every 30 seconds. Ben had returned the chair correctly, but the moving blanket lay crumpled on the floor. I folded it and placed it on the shelf. Then I noticed 3 stacks of rental chairs marked with orange tags against the back wall. They had already been delivered. I counted 32. My phone rang again. This time it was Owen. Good morning, Daniel. Is it? He paused. I was hoping we could talk. Go ahead. I want to begin by saying Leah handled this badly. That's a dangerous beginning for a husband. I've said the same thing to her. That surprised me enough to put down the chisel. Owen continued. The hotel was a mistake. I knew about it, and I should have objected. Why didn't you? Because I wanted the dinner too. At least he didn't pretend. Grant agreed to come, he said. That's unusual. He and I haven't been able to sit down without one of us leaving. What happened between you? It's complicated. Apparently so complicated you need my dining room. A breath of laughter escaped him. Leah says you use humor to avoid discomfort. Leah says a lot before breakfast. Grant and I made an investment together. It went badly. He thinks I knew more than I did. I think he enjoyed letting people assume the worst. Did you know more than you told him? Owen hesitated. That isn't my business, I said. No, but it's why neutral ground mattered. My house isn't neutral ground to Leah. I understand that now. Do you? I understand she wanted to be seen as the person giving everyone the holiday. With you there, they'd see it as your holiday. The fact that he understood his wife that clearly and had still gone along with removing me made me like him more and less at the same time. What are you asking for, Owen? A compromise. Which is? You remain for dinner. We reduce the guest list. No inn, no moving your furniture without permission. Leah keeps the caterer and the opportunity to host Celia. I already offered myself that compromise at midnight, and by 1 o'clock, I realized I didn't want to bargain for a chair in my own dining room. This isn't about a chair. No. It's about whether my first no means anything. He took that quietly. I respect you, he said. Then respect the answer. Leah will see this as you siding with Elaine. Leah is allowed to be wrong. Sure. But she'll make the rest of us live inside it. I nearly laughed. Now you know how the hotel felt. He sighed. That was deserved. Before hanging up, Owen said the rental company would retrieve the chairs. I told him they could come that afternoon, provided someone gave me a time. They're already there, he asked. In my barn. Another silence. I didn't know Ben had accepted delivery. Apparently the house began saying yes before I did. At noon, a truck collected the chairs. The driver handed me a clipboard, and I refused to sign because I had never ordered them. He called his dispatcher, who called Leah, who gave permission for the return. Nobody died. That small fact felt important. At 1:10, Ben's truck arrived. He came into the barn wearing his work clothes and carrying 2 empty plastic bins. He didn't greet me. He walked to the wall where he kept a nail gun, extension cords, and 3 cases of hardware. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Getting my things. I didn't ask you to. You shouldn't have to, since we're clarifying what belongs to who." "Ben." He dropped a coil of air hose into the first bin. "What? This isn't about your tools. It's exactly about my tools. They're in your barn. I use your workshop." I guess I confused being welcome with having a claim on you. He repeated my words with Leah's emphasis. She had called him. "You are welcome here." So was she, until she planned the wrong dinner. She planned a dinner that excluded me. She screwed up, apologized, and invited you. That wasn't an apology. Right. Because it didn't meet Mom's standards. I set the walnut board down. "Leave her out of this. You brought her into it. She invited me to dinner, and that's all you've ever needed, right? Somebody to need you more." I stared at him. Ben shoved a box of drill bits into the bin. It hit the bottom hard enough to split one corner. Tara said, "You're angry for the wrong reason," I said. He stopped moving. "What does that mean?" "Ask her." His jaw worked. For a moment he looked ready to say something. Instead, he lifted both bins, one in each hand. At the barn door, he turned back. "You think the house is what everybody wants from you?" he said. "Maybe ask yourself why it's the only place you ever let us have you." Then he carried his tools into the rain. I followed him as far as the barn door. Rain struck the metal roof in 1,000 separate taps. Ben loaded the bins behind the driver's seat, slammed the door, then stood with one hand on the truck as if he had forgotten why he came. "You don't have to take everything," I called. He looked back at me through the rain. "That's what taking your things means. I never said they were in my way." "No. You like them here, then leave them. That's not the same as wanting me here." He got in the truck before I could answer. The tires scattered gravel across the drive. I watched his taillights vanish behind the line of wet maples, then returned to the workshop. The bare section of wall looked wrong. Ben had kept equipment there for 11 years. Beginning with one red toolbox, he asked permission to leave for a weekend. The toolbox became a shelf, the shelf became a cabinet, and the cabinet became enough machinery to support a small contracting business. I had complained about it regularly. Not because I wanted him gone, because complaint was a form of conversation I understood. You planning to leave that compressor there forever? You planning to die before you need the space? That was more or less how Ben and I said good morning. His final words bothered me because they were unfair. They bothered me more because they weren't entirely unfair. I tried to work on the rocker. I measured the walnut, marked the center, then discovered I had written 14 3/8 on a board that was 14 7/8. I erased it, measured again, and got 15. "Perfect," I said to the empty barn. "Dementia by lunch." I covered the chair with a moving blanket and went inside. Elaine answered on the second ring. "Did the house burn down?" "No." "Did you?" "No." Then this is becoming quite a social week. I stood beside the loose kitchen window. "I'd like to come for Thanksgiving." The humor left her voice. "All right, that's all? What were you expecting?" "I don't know. A screening process. You have passed the background check." "Barely." I told Leah no. Elaine was quiet. "She came over this morning," I continued. "She canceled the inn and said I could attend. I still told her she couldn't use the house. Do you want me to congratulate you?" "No." "Good. I'm coming because I want to come." "That's better." "You don't believe me?" "I believe you want several things at the same time." You want to come. You want Leah to know you're coming. You want me to think well of you for finally saying no. You may also want pie. I always want pie. Then we have located your purest motive. I leaned one shoulder against the wall. What should I bring? Nothing. I can make stuffing. No. People like my stuffing. I like your stuffing. You use sausage and too much sage. That sounds like criticism. It's an observation. You're still not bringing it. A pie? I already ordered 2. From where? Daniel, that means grocery store. It means don't arrive with an emergency centerpiece because you're uncomfortable entering empty-handed. I don't own an emergency centerpiece. You have a workshop. You can make an emergency anything. I looked through the doorway toward the dining table. The floor plans were gone from the surface, but a pale rectangular patch showed where they had blocked the morning sun. What time? I asked. 2. We're eating at 4. Why 2? So people can talk. For 2 hours, you'll survive. I'm beginning to question the invitation. You accepted. No refunds. After we hung up, I wrote Thanksgiving, Elaine, 2 o'clock on the paper calendar beside the refrigerator. It felt oddly formal, as though I had scheduled a dental procedure. At 3, Leah sent a message to the family group. Dinner will be at our house. Smaller group. If you already accepted, I'll contact you individually. Then, 5 minutes later, Dad has other plans. There was nothing technically false about it, Tyra replied with a heart. Owen added, looking forward to having everyone here. Ben said nothing. I spent the afternoon moving furniture back to places nobody had yet moved it from. I returned the extra serving platters Leah had set on the sideboard to the cabinet. I put the brass clock downstairs from the guest room, polished its face with my shirt, and centered it on the mantel. At 4:30, someone knocked. The sound was so unusual I thought it came from the television, which wasn't on. Tara stood outside the side door in a green raincoat, with her dark hair wet at the shoulders. She held a black plastic case. I come in peace, she said. That puts you ahead of most visitors. She raised the case. Ben left his laser level. I stepped aside. Tara had been married to my son for 7 years. She was 35, worked as a physical therapist, and possessed the unsettling habit of waiting until people finished lying to themselves before she spoke. Ben called this patience. I suspected it was marksmanship. She set the case on the kitchen table. Coffee? I asked. No, thanks. Tea? I'm not staying, I nodded. She removed her raincoat and hung it on the hook. That's a mixed signal, I said. I'm cold. I filled the kettle. Tara sat while I made tea neither of us wanted. She accepted the mug, wrapped both hands around it, and watched steam rise. Ben shouldn't have spoken to you that way, she said. Which way? You know which way. He wasn't entirely wrong. No. I sat opposite her. You told me he was angry for the wrong reason. I shouldn't have sent that. But you did. I was angry too. At me, at all of you. It's like watching people fight over a restaurant bill after everybody ordered for everybody else. That's very specific. My family does it. She sipped the tea and made a face. I had forgotten the tea bag. I dropped one into her mug. Sorry, strong start. Why is Ben angry? He thinks it's about access, the workshop, the tools, the house. It is. Those are the nouns, not the reason. I waited. She stirred the water around the floating bag. How many times have you been to our place this year? I came in March. You dropped off a saw. I stayed for coffee. You stood in the garage. You were refinishing the floors. That was last year. I frowned. I came for Ben's birthday. We had it here. I was at the restaurant. That was my birthday. I was at both birthdays. Yes. Neither one was at our house. I began to object, then stopped. Tara continued. We invited you for dinner in April. You said you had work. In June, you said you didn't like driving after dark. In August, you said the heat made you tired. It was 98 degrees. Our house has air conditioning. Not in the garage. We weren't eating in the garage. I looked down at my hands. He asks you here because you always say yes here, she said. Need help with the back steps? Yes. Want to come see the shelves I installed at our place? Maybe next week. Next week never comes. I don't remember him asking about shelves. That's the problem. The kettle ticked as it cooled. Why didn't he say this? I asked. He did. Badly. In rain. I mean before. Because he learned complaint as a form of conversation from somebody. I looked at her. She raised the mug. His phrase, not mine. That was almost worse. I got up and opened the refrigerator, though I didn't need anything. The jar of pickles stood in the door like a witness. I thought the house made things easier, I said. It does. You know where everything is. You're comfortable. You get to be useful. You make usefulness sound like a disease. It can be, if you use it to avoid being known when you're not holding a wrench. I shut the refrigerator. Tara's expression softened. Ben is proud of being able to work beside you, but he's also 40 minutes from being a nervous 14-year-old whenever he screws something up. He's 33. I said what I said. Despite myself, I smiled. She pushed the laser level toward the center of the table. He has a built-in job next month. Big one. Curved shelving, old plaster walls. He was planning to ask you to look at the measurements. He didn't mention it. He wanted to. Then all this happened. He can still ask. He may not. Pride, hereditary condition. She put on her raincoat. At the door, she paused. For what it's worth, I think you were right to say no. That sounded painful. It was. You can tell Ben I'm not angry. I won't. Why? Because you are. I opened my mouth. She put up one hand. You don't have to yell to be angry, Daniel. Sometimes you just get very polite and remove all the chairs. After she left, the kitchen seemed fuller than before, crowded with sentences I didn't know where to put. I carried Ben's laser level to the barn. His cabinet had been emptied, but the outline remained in the dust on the wall. I placed the case on the workbench, then reconsidered and set it inside the vacant cabinet. My phone rang while I was uncovering the rocker. I expected Ben. It was Leah. Hi, she said, the words stretched thin. Hello, I need to pick up my serving bowls. All right. And the linen runners in the upstairs closet. All right. The caterer can still do 12 at our house. Owen's parents, Grant and Marcus, Celia, Ben, and Tara. That's 10, plus us. Right. There was a pause. I didn't call to discuss the numbers, she said. Then why did you tell me? I don't know. I ran my hand across the walnut board. When do you want the bowls? I asked. Saturday. I'll be here. That's usually how it works. Her bitterness came quietly this time. Leah, what? You were right about one thing. She waited. I do take over. The line remained silent long enough that I checked the screen. Finally, she said, I wanted you there, Dad. No. You wanted to want me there. That isn't fair. I'm not trying to be fair. I'm trying to be accurate. She inhaled sharply. I had used the same sentence on her that morning. This time, it sounded colder. Before I could take it back, she said, Enjoy, Moms, and hung up. I stood alone in the barn, holding a piece of walnut too beautiful to waste, and suddenly unsure what I had been building. One chair, Leah had said, always looked lonely. I fitted the walnut into the rocker anyway. The back would take 5 narrow slats, each curved just enough to support weight without announcing the effort. I cut 6 because wood has a sense of humor, and people make mistakes. By the time Leah returned for the serving bowls, 5 slats were clamped into place, and the 6th was lying beneath the bench with a split down its center. She arrived with Owen's SUV instead of her own car. Owen wasn't with her. I had packed the bowls in 2 cardboard boxes lined with dish towels. The linen runners were folded on top. I'd added the silver gravy boat, 3 trivets, and the electric warming tray she always borrowed and always denied borrowing. You didn't have to do all this, she said. I know. She stood in the kitchen with her coat buttoned, looking at the boxes as if they might contain an argument. Where did these towels come from? My drawer. They're your good ones. I have good dish towels. These are the ones Mom bought in Vermont. I remembered a general store, Rain, and Elaine insisting there was a difference between flour sack cotton and ordinary cotton. I had called them overpriced rags until one survived 20 years of drying dishes. You can bring them back, I said. Leah removed the towels and replaced them with a newspaper from the recycling pile. Mom would kill me if I used these for packing. Your mother gave up authority over my dish towels in the divorce. She'd still have an opinion. She usually does. Leah glanced at me, uncertain whether the remark was affectionate or bitter. I wasn't sure myself. She carried the first box to the SUV. When she returned, she stopped beside the refrigerator. What are you doing with the turkey? Eating it, eventually. You can't eat a 14-pound turkey. It's 12 pounds. That doesn't solve the problem. I'll invite Cal when he gets back from Arizona. In December? Turkey keeps. Dad? Would you like it? She looked offended. Our food is already arranged. I was offering poultry, not assistance. That's never just what you're offering. She picked up the second box. I followed her outside with the warming tray. The day was clear and cold. Wet leaves had dried into curled brown edges across the yard. Owen's SUV was parked close to the side steps, its cargo area filled with folding chairs, wine, and 2 unopened boxes of glassware. You bought glasses? I asked. They're rentals. I own glasses. She gave me a look. Right, I said, not matching. She put the bowls beside the wine and rearranged the boxes twice. I held the warming tray until she noticed I still had it. Just set it anywhere. You're the professional, back left. I slid it into place. She closed the hatch, then leaned against it. For the first time since arriving, she looked directly at me. Celia isn't coming. I'm sorry. She said 12 people in a townhouse sounded intimate, which is what people say when they mean crowded. She may have other plans. She does now. I waited. Leah kicked a pebble off the gravel with the side of her shoe. The caterer kept most of the deposit because we changed the menu and location. That's frustrating. You can say expensive. It won't burn your mouth. How expensive? Never mind. If you need, no. The word came fast. I stopped. She rubbed her forehead. Do you see? This is what happens. You create a boundary, then the second the boundary costs somebody money, you reach for your wallet. I wasn't reaching for my wallet. You were about to. I was asking. You were about to ask how much. Then you'd pay it, and later you'd be hurt that nobody understood what it meant. I folded my arms against the cold. You seem to know a lot about my intentions. I learned from Mom. There was no humor in it. You said the dinner needed to be yours, I said. It is mine now. And I hate it. Why? Because I don't know if I wanted it or just wanted to prove I could do it. That admission was so unguarded I nearly ruined it by comforting her. Instead, I said, those can be the same thing for a while. She studied me. Was that supposed to help? Not everything is. A corner of her mouth moved. Then she asked, Are you really going to Mom's? Yes. What are you bringing? Nothing. She laughed. No, seriously. She told me not to bring anything. And you agreed? I'm capable of restraint. You built Grandma a bookshelf when she invited you for coffee. She had books on the floor. She had one magazine. The principle was sound. For a few seconds, we were ourselves. Then Leah looked past me at the farmhouse, and the moment closed. Owen thinks I owe you a real apology, she said. Owen is a brave man when he isn't present. He offered to come. You told him not to? He makes apologies sound like contract negotiations. That's because he wears a tie on Saturdays. She lowered her gaze. I don't know how to apologize while I'm still angry. You don't have to do it today. Mom would say anger doesn't prevent accountability. Your mother has a phrase for every occasion. Do you hate that about her? I used to. And now? I looked toward the barn. Through the east window, I could see the rocker's dark frame. Now I think I hated how often she was right. Leah's face changed, not dramatically. She simply became still. Is this how it starts? She asked. How what starts? You and her. There is no me and her. You're having Thanksgiving together, with 5 other adults and a dangerous cooking torch. She invited you. Mom doesn't do things accidentally, neither do you. That hurt her, though I hadn't meant it as a weapon. She opened the driver's door. I should go. Leah, she paused. I'm sorry Celia canceled. No, you're not. I'm sorry it cost you something. She rested one hand on the roof of the SUV. That might be worse. Then she got in and drove away. I did not offer money for the deposit. It required more effort than I expected. The next week, my days developed gaps. I had blocked off the Monday and Tuesday before Thanksgiving for food preparation. Without a 22-pound turkey to brine or 2 tables to arrange, there was nothing urgent to do. I repaired the loose kitchen window. The glazing putty had hardened in the can, so I drove to the hardware store for more. Owen was in the plumbing aisle holding 2 toilet supply lines and staring at them as though one had insulted his family. What happened? I asked. He turned. Powder room sink. Those are for a toilet, I'm aware. Then your sink has unusual ambitions. He returned one line to the shelf. Leah sent me for a hose. What kind? She doesn't know. Did she take a picture? No. Then you're going home twice. He put the other line back too. We stood under fluorescent lights between faucets and drain cleaners. Owen wore a quarter-zip sweater and no coat. There was plaster dust on one sleeve. "We're repainting the living room," he said. "Before Thursday?" It seemed wise on Sunday. And now? Now our couch is in the dining area, our dining table is in the garage, and Grant has asked whether he should bring his own chair. "Are you telling me this so I'll reconsider?" "No, you sure? I've been instructed not to negotiate with you." By Leah, by Tara. That made sense. Owen picked up a package of braided faucet lines, examined the label, and put it back. "How is Leah?" I asked. "Angry, I know. Not just at you. I know that too. She keeps saying you chose Elaine. I keep telling her you chose dinner. Thank you. She tells me I don't understand because my parents are still married. That sounds like Leah. She's also making 12 people fit into a room built for 8 and doing it with terrifying competence." I smiled. Owen did not. "She's scared this changes everything," he said. "It should change something. That's what scares her." A store employee passed and asked whether we needed help. Owen said no before I could say yes. "Grant is still coming?" I asked. "He says he is." "You going to talk about the investment? That was the point." "Was?" Owen glanced toward the end of the aisle. "I'm beginning to think we use events to avoid conversations. If the meal is perfect, maybe nobody has to say the ugly thing. That sounds familiar." He looked at me. "I suppose it does." I found the glazing putty. Owen bought 3 kinds of supply line. At home, I removed the brittle old putty from the window frame. It came loose in long gray strips, exposing points of rust beneath. The repair had waited so long that the wood had softened at one corner. A job that should have taken an hour took most of the afternoon. Elaine called while I was painting the repaired frame. "I have a question," she said. "I'm not bringing anything." That was not the question. It's still the answer. "Peter wants to know if you have a cranberry sauce recipe." Cranberries, sugar, orange peel. He wants quantities, equal amounts of water and sugar, 1 bag of cranberries. How much orange peel? Some. This is why people hate recipes from men your age. Tell him half an orange. Thank you. Why is Peter making cranberry sauce if he owns a culinary torch? The torch has been confiscated. By whom? Marisol. I may send her a thank you note. Elaine hesitated. "Are you all right?" she asked. "I'm painting a window." That wasn't what I meant. I know. I looked at the new putty, smooth beneath the knife. "I told Leah I thought you were right," I said. "About what?" "About me. That narrows it down to several hundred subjects." "You know which one?" The line went quiet. "Be careful," she said. "With Leah?" "With deciding I'm right about everything because I was right about something." "I don't think that. You used to turn people into opposing teams when you didn't want to examine your own position. I thought I avoided conflict. You avoided being the villain. Different hobby." I set down the brush. "You invited me?" I said. "Yes." You could sound happier that I accepted. I am happy. You hide it well. I'm trying not to make one meal carry more than it can. The window pane reflected my face beside the darkening yard. "I'll see you Thursday," I said, at 2. The farmhouse was silent on Thanksgiving morning. I dressed too early, changed my shirt twice, and put the turkey deeper into the freezer so I wouldn't have to look at it. At 11, photographs began appearing in the family message. Owen holding a paint roller, Tara arranging chairs, Ben lifting one end of a dining table, his face turned away from the camera. Nobody addressed me. I bought a pecan pie from the bakery on Route 40 and left it in the box, despite the word Thanksgiving printed crooked across the lid. Before driving away, I checked every window, shut off the workshop lights, and locked the side door. The key turned with a soft, ordinary click. For the first Thanksgiving in 27 years, the farmhouse would be warm, prepared, and empty. I put Elaine's invitation on the passenger seat, the forbidden pie on top of it, and drove toward a table where I still did not know which version of me would arrive. Elaine lived in a brick townhouse at the end of a street where every front door was painted a different approved color. Hers was dark blue. A wreath made of dried orange slices hung slightly crooked above the brass knocker. I sat at the curb for long enough that a man walking a beagle looked into my car twice. At 1:58, I carried the pie to her door. Elaine opened it before I knocked. She wore a green blouse, black slacks, and the silver earrings I had given her on our 25th anniversary. I noticed the earrings first, then resented myself for noticing. "You brought something," she said. "Good afternoon to you too." I was very specific. "It's a pie, not a gazebo." She looked at the bakery box. Pecan? Yes. I ordered pecan, then people can compare. That is exactly the kind of competition I didn't want at this meal. Behind her, a woman called, "Is that regrettably?" Marisol appeared in the hallway holding a wine glass. Elaine's older sister was 61, 5 feet tall, and able to communicate disapproval across state lines. Her gray hair was cut close around her face, and she wore a red sweater with tiny embroidered turkeys that looked frightened. "Hello, Marisol," I said. She looked me up and down. "You look alive. So do you." Mine was expected. Elaine took the pie from my hands. "You may come inside before this improves." The townhouse smelled like onions, butter, and something sweet burning. Peter stood in the kitchen wearing an apron that said, "The man, the myth, the legend, the dishwasher." He was broad-shouldered, bald, and younger than I expected, perhaps 50. He held a saucepan in one hand and a whisk in the other. "You must be Daniel," he said. "What color should cranberry sauce be?" "Red." He lifted the whisk. A thick purple substance hung from it. I added wine. "How much?" "A bottle." "To 1 bag of cranberries?" The recipe didn't specify restraint. That was implied. Marisol walked past me. "I told you. You told me to throw it away. That remains my position." June sat at the small kitchen table, slicing green beans. She was a retired accountant with silver hair pulled into a long braid, and the expression of a woman who had survived decades of other people misplacing receipts. She had been with Marisol for 19 years and was the only person I knew who could stop her with a single raised eyebrow. "Nice to see you, Daniel," June said. "You too. Don't let Marisol frighten you. She's been rehearsing." "I have not," Marisol said. June raised one eyebrow. Marisol drank her wine. Ruth Kaplan entered from the living room, carrying a platter covered in foil. She was tall, narrow, and wrapped in a purple scarf despite the heat inside. "I brought the salmon," she announced. Peter looked offended. "There's turkey. I don't eat anything with a waddle. Salmon have faces." I removed the head. "This is already better than most Thanksgivings," I said. Elaine was watching me, not warmly exactly, not coldly either. She seemed to be checking whether I understood that nobody there required me to manage them. She put my pie on top of the refrigerator, above the 2 pies she had already bought. "There," she said, "it can think about what it did." My phone buzzed in my pocket. The family message showed a photograph of Leah's dining room. The table nearly filled it, leaving a narrow path along one wall. Cream linens, olive napkins, low arrangements, the same plan compressed into a smaller life. Owen had written, "We made it fit." Tara replied, "Technically." In the edge of the photograph, Ben was standing on a chair adjusting the light fixture. I put the phone away. Elaine saw the movement. "Everything all right?" "Yes, you can answer if you need to." "I don't." That earned the smallest nod. I offered to help in the kitchen. 5 people told me no at once. "We have assignments," Elaine said. "What's mine?" "You don't have one. Everybody needs an assignment. You're a guest. I can still peel something." "Everything is peeled. Carve the turkey?" "Peter wants to." Peter looked alarmed. "I do?" "You've been talking about it for an hour." "I've been saying somebody should do it." Marisol pointed toward me. "He carves." Elaine put down the oven mitt. "Daniel does not have to carve. I'm fine carving. You always carve. I know how." "So does Peter." Peter looked at the bird on the counter. "I've watched videos," Ruth said. "You should let him do it, Elaine. If he ruins the turkey, I'll feel vindicated." I laughed, and the tension loosened. Peter carved. He did it badly. He began by removing one entire side of the breast, as if repossessing it. I stood 3 feet away, gripping my own fingers. "You're sweating," June observed. "It's warm. The window is open." Peter held up the knife. "Should I be going against the grain?" "It's not lumber," I said. "So, that's a no?" Elaine moved beside me. "You may give one instruction." "One? Choose carefully." I watched Peter saw at a drumstick joint. The knife is upside down. He turned it over. That explains a lot. My phone buzzed again. This time, Leah had messaged me privately. "Where is the silver gravy ladle?" I knew exactly where it was. Second drawer of the sideboard, beneath the linen napkins, wrapped in a piece of blue felt. I typed the answer, then deleted it. They were at her house. The ladle was at mine. I wrote, in the sideboard, "Here." A few seconds later, "Do you have another?" I looked around Elaine's kitchen. Her gravy ladle rested beside the stove, plain stainless steel with a black plastic handle. I wrote, "No." That was not completely true. There was an old soup ladle in the back of my utensil drawer. It would have worked, but telling Leah would not move it 40 minutes away. She responded with a thumbs up. I put the phone on silent. At the table, 6 folded paper cards marked 6 places. Elaine had written the names in the same blue ink as my invitation. Mine was between June and Ruth, across from Elaine. A white plate sat beneath it. Water glass, wine glass, cloth napkin. Nothing special. Nobody had been moved to make room. The chair had not appeared because I objected. I touched the top of the card with one finger. Marisol noticed. "Elaine made those twice," she said. "Marisol?" Elaine warned. "What?" She did. The first ink bled. The first one said Daniel beside you. The room changed temperature. June closed her eyes briefly. And there it is. Elaine picked up the basket of rolls. "Please sit down." I moved to my chair. "Why did you change it?" "Because Marisol was coming." Marisol smiled. "Correct." "Because I didn't want anyone assigning meaning to where you sat," Elaine said. "Also correct," Marisol said, less satisfying. We sat. Peter poured wine. Ruth adjusted her scarf. June passed green beans. For the first 5 minutes, everybody spoke too carefully. We discussed traffic, the weather, and whether salmon qualified as Thanksgiving food. Ruth made a persuasive argument involving ancient migration routes that nobody understood. Then Peter dropped a roll in his gravy. He looked down at it. "I meant to do that." "You absolutely did not," Elaine said. "People dip bread. They don't usually release it from altitude." We laughed and conversation found a less fragile shape. Peter told me he had met Elaine while building a staircase for a theater production. The staircase had to collapse on cue without injuring the actor. "I built the first version too well," he said. "Wouldn't fall." "Common problem," I said. Elaine called it aggressively competent. I've heard that phrase. Across the table, her eyes met mine. "You built things to last," she said. "Usually. And if they didn't, I fixed them. And if they couldn't be fixed, I built something else." Marisol set down her fork. June touched her wrist, but she continued. "Unless it was a marriage." "Marisol," Elaine said. "What?" "We're all adults. Being an adult does not require saying every thought out loud. That belief is how families become haunted." The word hung over the mashed potatoes. I took a drink of wine. June turned to me. "You're allowed to tell her to mind her business. She'd enjoy that." "I would," Marisol said. I looked at her. "Do you want to ask me something?" "No, I wanted to say something." "Then June is right." Marisol blinked. "Mind your business." Ruth made a choking sound that might have been laughter. Peter stared at his plate. June lifted her wineglass toward me in a small salute. Marisol's expression tightened. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. "There he is," she said. "I've been here the whole time." "No." "You've been pleasant?" Elaine pushed the roll basket toward her sister with enough force to end the exchange. My phone vibrated against my leg. A call this time. "Ben." I let it stop. 10 seconds later, he called again. I excused myself and went into the hallway. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Nothing's wrong." "Then why did you call twice?" In the background, voices overlapped. A cabinet door shut. Someone laughed too loudly. "Leah and Grant got into it," Ben said. "About what?" "You." I closed my eyes. "Why?" Grant asked where you were. "Owen said you had other plans. Leah said you decided not to host, and Grant said that was an interesting way to phrase it." I leaned against the wall. "What did Leah say?" "That Mom manipulated you. Your mother didn't." "I know that. Do you?" He lowered his voice. "I'm calling because she's upset." "What do you want me to do? Talk to her. Now? Just tell her you're not doing this to hurt her." I looked through the doorway. Elaine sat at the far end of the table listening to Ruth. My place waited between June and the half-eaten salmon. The paper cards still stood above my plate. "Ben, if I call Leah every time she's upset by a decision I make, then I haven't made a decision." "That sounds like Mom. It sounds like me." "Since when?" The question was honest, not cruel. "Since I started trying," I said. He exhaled. "She thinks you're all sitting around talking about her. We aren't." "Could you tell her that?" "You just did." "Dad, I'm having dinner." Another burst of laughter came from Leah's side of the call, followed by a sharp command I couldn't make out. Ben said, "Fine. Wait, what? How are you? The background noise seemed to retreat. I'm standing in a kitchen holding a gravy boat because there's nowhere to put it. That wasn't what I asked. I know. We stayed quiet. Then he said, Tara told you about the shelves. She did? I asked you in May. I'm sorry I forgot. Yeah, you can ask again. I shouldn't have to keep asking. No, but I'm telling you, I want you to. Someone called his name. I have to go, he said. Happy Thanksgiving, Ben. He hesitated. Happy Thanksgiving, Dad. When I returned to the dining room, nobody asked what the call had been about. Elaine lifted my plate. You're falling behind. Is that allowed? Not in this house. She spooned more stuffing onto it before I could object. It had sausage and too much sage. I took a bite. Good? She asked. It's acceptable. I used your recipe. I looked up. She was smiling, but only a little. Under the table, my knee bumped the table leg. The folded card with my name trembled above my plate but did not fall. The stuffing tasted exactly like mine. Not similar, not inspired by. Mine. You kept the recipe? I asked. Elaine passed the bowl to June. It's a recipe, Daniel, not a restraining order. You said I used too much sage. You do. This has too much sage. It does. Marisol watched us over the rim of her wine glass. June put one finger against Marisol's wrist before she could speak. Peter's cranberry sauce had set into something dense enough to stop a door. Ruth tried to spoon it, bent the serving spoon, and declared it performance art. I can slice it, I said. Elaine pointed her fork at me. Guessed. It requires a knife. Peter created it. Peter can manage the consequences. Peter tipped the bowl onto a plate. The sauce slid out in one perfect purple cylinder. We applauded. That was how the meal continued. Not gracefully, but honestly. Ruth explained that her late husband had loved Thanksgiving and hated turkey. So, for 34 years, she had cooked him salmon in secret and pretended it was for herself. June admitted she had never liked pumpkin pie, but ate it because Marisol became personally offended by preferences. Peter confessed the culinary torch had been intended for creme brulee, though he had never made custard. Then why buy the torch? I asked. It was on sale. I nodded. Good reason? Elaine looked at me. You once bought a lathe because it came with free clamps. The clamps were excellent. You didn't have room for the lathe. I made room. You removed my potting bench. You weren't using it. Marisol set down her fork. Would everyone like me to leave while you reenact the marriage? No, Elaine and I said together. That made it worse. By dessert, the careful distance between us had softened, but it had not disappeared. It lay across the table beneath the dishes, an old crack covered by a runner. Everyone knew it was there. Nobody put weight on it. Elaine brought down my pecan pie and the one she had bought. Blind comparison, Peter said. There will be no comparison, Elaine replied. Then why serve both? Because somebody ignored instructions. She cut 6 thin slices from each. Mine lost. Not dramatically. The bakery crust was too sweet, and the filling had the texture of roof sealant. Elaine's pie came from a small bakery near the theater and tasted like toasted butter. Ruth tried both and said, Daniel's has confidence. That isn't a flavor, Marisol said. It is when quality is unavailable. I laughed harder than the joke deserved. Maybe we all did. When the plates were empty, June and Marisol put on their coats. Ruth wrapped the remaining salmon in foil and placed Peter's cranberry cylinder on top of it. You're taking that? Peter asked. It may be useful in self-defense. Peter left with 2 containers and a lecture from Elaine about torch safety. At the door, he shook my hand. I'm glad you came, he said. The words were simple enough that I nearly distrusted them. Thank you. Elaine said you might not. She was right. She usually is. Don't encourage her. I heard that, Elaine called from the kitchen. After the door closed, the townhouse became quiet in stages. The pipes ticked. A car started outside. Somewhere beyond the shared wall, a television audience applauded. I carried 2 plates toward the kitchen. You don't have to do that, Elaine said. I know. You're doing it anyway. Yes. Why? Because you cooked. I invited you as a guest. Guests can carry plates. She considered this, then moved aside. We settled into an old rhythm without discussing it. She scraped, I loaded the dishwasher. She had always believed bowls belonged on the top rack. I had always known they fit better below. I put one on the bottom, she moved it to the top. Some things don't change, I said. Some things survive because one person keeps correcting the other. That sounds exhausting. It was. My hand stopped over the silverware basket. Elaine rinsed a serving spoon. She did not look at me. I'm sorry, I said. For the bowl? For Christmas. She shut off the water. The kitchen window above her sink reflected both of us against the dark glass, side by side, but not touching. Which Christmas? She asked. The last one you came to the farmhouse. Her shoulders went still. Leah moved your place card next to mine, I said. You moved it back. She cried, and I put it beside me again. I remember. I told myself I was helping her. You were. That doesn't make it right. No. I waited for forgiveness. The expectation embarrassed me as soon as I recognized it. Elaine dried her hands on a towel. Why are you apologizing now? Because I understand what I did. You understand one example. That's something. It is. Her caution irritated me. I'm trying, Elaine. I see that. You could meet me halfway. Her expression changed. There I was. The same man, standing in a different kitchen, submitting an invoice for effort. I turned back to the dishwasher. Forget I said that. No, look at me. I did. You said no to Leah, she said. That was necessary. You came here even though it was uncomfortable. That was brave. You apologized for something you did 6 years ago. I appreciate it. But none of those things purchase a particular response from me. I know. Do you? I almost defended myself. Instead, I leaned against the counter. No, I said. Not always. The answer seemed to surprise her. She picked up my paper place card from the counter. At some point she had carried it in with the plates. You taught everyone to treat your sacrifices like currency, she said. You gave and gave, then expected people to understand the price without telling them. When they didn't, you gave more. That makes me sound manipulative. You were manipulative. I never threatened anyone. You didn't have to. You made yourself indispensable, then looked wounded when people depended on you. Her voice was not angry. I almost wished it were. I thought of Ben's tools against my wall, Leah's serving bowls in my cabinet. Every repair I had done before anyone could learn to do it badly. I liked being needed, I said. You liked being safe. How was that safe? If people needed you, they couldn't leave without losing something. The dishwasher hummed between us. You left, I said. Yes, and you lost plenty. Yes. That was the truth I had avoided because it made neither of us villain nor victim. Elaine lost the farmhouse, our shared friends, the garden she planted, and years of easy contact with Ben and Leah. I lost her and made my loss so visible that everyone treated hers as a decision rather than an injury. Did you invite me because you want us to try again? I asked. She looked tired. No. The answer hurt, though I had promised myself I wasn't asking. I invited you because I thought you deserved a chair at Thanksgiving, she said, and because I wanted to see you. Both can be true? Most things are. I nodded. She placed the paper card in my hand. Don't turn me into the good family because you're angry at the other one, she said. I won't. You might. I'll try not to. That I believe. At the door, she gave me a container of stuffing and refused to include either pecan pie. What happens to mine? I asked. Peter took it. I thought he had taste. He has a culinary torch. Fair. We stood beneath the crooked wreath. Thank you for coming, she said. Thank you for inviting me. Neither of us moved. Years ago, that pause would have ended with a kiss. This one ended when Elaine reached up and straightened my collar. Drive carefully? You sound like my mother. She was usually right. She liked you better. She had excellent judgment. I walked to the car smiling, which felt disloyal until I decided it didn't. The farmhouse was dark when I returned. No cars lined the drive. No light shone from the barn. No warm crowd waited behind the door, needing gravy, ice, or another chair. I unlocked the side door and carried the stuffing into the kitchen. The room smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and cold fireplace ash. I turned on one lamp in the den, then another in the dining room. The old table stood bare beneath the chandelier. 22 people could have filled it and spilled into the next room. Instead, there was only the soft mechanical click of the brass clock on the mantel. I placed Elaine's paper card beside the calendar. My phone held 11 messages. Most were from the family group, photographs of food, Tara holding a gravy boat. Owen and Grant standing at opposite ends of a counter, both smiling with their mouths, but not their eyes. One picture showed Leah lifting a wine glass at the crowded table. Her face was flushed, her hair falling loose from its clip. The final message was from Ben. Grant left early. Don't call tonight. I did not. I sat in my leather chair with a container of stuffing on my lap and ate 2 forkfuls cold. The silence did not feel peaceful. It felt earned, which was not the same thing. At 8 the next morning, someone pounded on the side door. Leah stood outside holding one of my cardboard boxes. The good dish towels were folded on top, even though I had watched her remove them. I opened the door. She carried the box past me and set it on the kitchen table. Dirty serving bowls clinked inside. You were right, she said. Her voice was flat. About what? Everything. Is that what you want to hear? No, well, enjoy it anyway. She turned to leave. Leah. She stopped with her back to me. What happened? She laughed once. It sounded painful. Grant asked why you weren't there. Owen tried to protect me, Ben tried to protect you, and Tara got tired of all of us. What did she say? That we were treating dinner like a trial, and you were the only person who hadn't shown up to testify. That sounded like Tara. Leah turned around. Then Grant said the house was never neutral. He said I chose it because I wanted everybody impressed before Owen and he talked. Owen admitted he knew the investment was riskier than he told Grant. I said nothing. They fought. Owen's mother cried. Grant left before pie. I'm sorry. No, you're not. This time I knew better than to deny it too quickly. I'm sorry you were hurt, I said, but not sorry I failed. Were you trying to reconcile a family or impress Celia? Her eyes filled. There, she whispered. That's Mom. No. It's a question. It's judgment wearing glasses. She shoved the box toward me. One bowl struck another. I hope your dinner was wonderful. It was awkward. Poor you. It was also kind. She looked toward the card beside the calendar. My name, written in Elaine's hand, faced the room. Leah's expression tightened. You got your chair? She said. Yes, and all it cost was ours. She walked out before I could decide whether that was accusation, grief, or the first honest thing either of us had said. The cardboard box remained on the table after she left. One bowl held dried gravy. Another had a chip along the rim that I didn't remember. The dish towels were clean, folded into thirds, and placed on top with the blue stripes aligned. Leah had washed and returned the towels while leaving the bowls dirty. That was my daughter in one box. I carried the bowls to the sink and stopped when I reached the chipped one. It had been part of a set Elaine and I bought after our wedding, cheap stoneware from a department store that no longer existed. We had broken most of it through ordinary life. This bowl had survived 3 houses, 1 marriage, and 27 Thanksgivings before losing a piece in Leah's dining room. I found the chip at the bottom of the box. My first thought was glue. My second was to leave it broken. Instead, I put both pieces on the windowsill and washed everything else. Nobody spoke in the family message for 4 days. Usually, Thanksgiving photographs gave way to recipes, complaints about traffic, and somebody asking who had taken home the wrong container. That year, silence sat beneath the group name like another member. Owen called on Tuesday evening. I owe you an apology, he said. You don't have to. Yes, I do. I stopped myself. All right. He seemed to have prepared for resistance and didn't know what to do without it. I knew the investment was riskier than I told Grant, he said. Not everything, but enough that I should have been clearer. When it went bad, I let him think we'd both been equally surprised. Why? Because being wrong is temporary. Being dishonest follows you. That's usually why people choose not to be dishonest. I'm aware of the flaw. I sat at the kitchen table, turning Elaine's paper place card over with one finger. Her name wasn't on the back. Nothing was. I kept expecting the object to become less important if I handled it enough. What happened after he left? I asked. I went to his hotel. On Thanksgiving, he wouldn't answer my calls. So, you went there. I sat in the lobby for an hour. Eventually he came down because the desk clerk said I was making people uncomfortable. That sounds productive. He told me he didn't care about the money anymore. He cared that I let him spend 5 months wondering whether he was stupid. I understood that too well. Did you apologize? I tried. How'd it go? He said I sounded like a lawyer. He's met you. Owen laughed quietly. He's willing to talk again, he said. Not with our parents present. Not at a holiday. No catered food. Smart man. I should have talked to him in June. Yes. I thought you might soften that. You called the wrong father-in-law. That's new. So I'm told. He exhaled. Leah thinks I embarrassed her. Did you? Yes. Then she's right. She also thinks I chose Grant over her. That seems to be going around. I told her refusing to keep lying wasn't choosing him. And? She said that sounded like you. I looked at the chipped bowl on the windowsill. How is she? I asked. Functional. Which is worse than loud. Do you want me to call? No. The answer stung. Then Owen added, if you call, she'll make the conversation about your guilt. She needs to decide what she thinks without managing your reaction. You make me sound difficult. I've been married to your daughter for 11 years. I know difficult. That might have been the first joke Owen had ever made at Leah's expense without glancing around to see whether she heard. Before hanging up, he said, you were right to refuse the house. I know. You could pretend it's hard to hear. It is. I'm practicing. The following Sunday, I drove to Ben and Tara's place. They lived in a split-level house outside Frederick, with gray siding, a red mailbox, and 2 stone planters I had made them years earlier. I had dropped off tools there dozens of times. I had not sat at their table since Tara's mother visited the previous spring. 3 springs ago, I learned when I asked. Ben opened the door and looked past me toward the driveway. What happened? Nothing. Then why are you here? You invited me to see shelves. In May, I got delayed. By 7 months? Traffic. He stared at me. Then Tara called from the kitchen. Let him in before he turns this into a porch visit. Ben stepped aside. Their house smelled like garlic and laundry detergent. Boots were lined beneath a narrow bench in the entry. A stack of unopened mail rested on the stairs. These details felt strangely intimate, though I had seen versions of them my entire life. Tara kissed my cheek and handed me a glass of wine. No work talk until after dinner, she said. Ben leaned against the counter. He came to see the shelves. The shelves will endure. Dinner was roast chicken, potatoes, and green beans without almonds, because Tara said almonds were a hostile surprise in vegetables. Ben and I discussed football, weather, and Cal's journey to dry November. Nobody mentioned Thanksgiving. I wanted to. I also wanted them to notice I was not mentioning it, which was another kind of mentioning. After dinner, Ben took me into the living room. The shelves filled an alcove beside the fireplace. White oak, clean edges, hidden supports. The proportions were good. One shelf sat slightly low on the right. Ben crossed his arms. Go ahead, they're beautiful. His eyebrows rose. That's it? That's what I think. You're looking at the 3rd shelf. I'm looking at all of them. You see it? I see a shelf. You hate floating shelves. I've matured. You called them planks pretending to levitate. That was before I saw these. He looked suspicious, then pleased despite himself. The wall wasn't square, he said. I had to scribe every back edge. I can see that. I almost called you. I'm sorry you didn't. He touched the lower shelf. I was still angry. You still are. Yeah. We stood there. I'm angry too, I said. I know. I don't know what to do with that. You could stop saying you aren't. That seemed reasonable. He poured us each another half glass of wine. I sat on their sofa. He sat in the chair across from me. What's the built-in job? I asked. He described a library in a 19th century house near Hagerstown. Curved wall, plaster over brick, floor off level by nearly 2 inches. He had underbid it because he wanted the client's referrals. You measured already? I asked. Twice. Make templates. I know. Full height. I know. Don't assume both sides curve the same. I know, Dad. I lifted my hands. He rubbed his face. This is why I didn't ask. You brought up the job. I wanted to tell you about it. That isn't always asking you to take it over. There it was again. Usefulness arriving before companionship could sit down. I drank my wine. Tell me about the house, I said. I just did. No. Tell me what it looks like. Ben studied me, uncertain whether this was a trick. Then he described the tall windows, worn pine floors, and a fireplace mantel carved with acorns. The client collected old travel books and wanted the shelves to look as though they had always been there. Ben's voice changed as he spoke. He loved the problem, not just the paycheck. I listened until Tara brought in pie. I did not offer to draw plans. When I left, Ben stood in the driveway and said, "You can come without bringing anything next time. I brought wine. You brought the bottle we gave you last Christmas. I was aging it." He smiled. "Come sooner than 7 months. I will." We both knew a promise was not yet a habit. Leah called 3 days before Christmas. "Can we have lunch?" she asked. We met at a diner halfway between us. She arrived early and had already ordered coffee for me, black. A yellow legal pad lay beside her plate. "What's that?" I asked. "Notes." "For lunch?" I didn't want to say the wrong thing. "You brought prepared remarks? That sounds ridiculous when you say it." It looked ridiculous before I said it. She slid the pad beneath her purse. "I want to apologize," she said. I waited. I shouldn't have booked the inn. I shouldn't have made plans for the house without asking. I was under a lot of pressure, but that doesn't excuse it. "No." Her mouth tightened. "You're supposed to say thank you. Thank you. You could make this easier." I used to. The waitress appeared. Leah ordered a salad without looking at the menu. I ordered meatloaf and watched her disapprove. When we were alone again, she said, "I want us to move forward. So do I." I thought Christmas might be a chance. "At the farmhouse. It's where we always have Christmas. There it is." "What?" "The house." She sat back. "I knew you'd do this." "Do what?" "Turn every invitation into a test. You haven't invited me anywhere. You're asking me to provide somewhere. We can all come to you. You won't be alone." The sentence was meant kindly. That was what made it sharp. "What if I come to your house?" I asked. "For Christmas?" "Yes. We just had Thanksgiving there. And it's too small? For the whole group? For Christmas?" I waited. She looked toward the window. "What if it's just you, Owen, Ben, Tara, and me?" I asked. "No caterer, no client, no matching chairs." "That isn't how we do Christmas. Maybe how we did it is part of the problem." Her eyes filled with familiar anger, but this time she did not use it immediately. "You're saying no again," she said. "To the farmhouse, yes. How long are you going to punish me? I'll host when I want to host, not when somebody apologizes in order to get the room back. I meant the apology. I think you meant part of it." The waitress set down our plates. Leah's salad had dressing on the side. My meatloaf leaned beneath a dark layer of gravy. We waited until she left. "What would be enough for you?" Leah asked. "I don't know." "That's not fair." "No, it isn't." She pulled the legal pad from beneath her purse and tore off the top sheet. On it, beneath 3 sentences of apology, she had written, "Christmas Dads. Confirm Ben/Tara. Ask. Owen Ree, Hambring. Mom's ornaments from hall closet." I looked at the list, then pushed it back. "You didn't come here to repair something," I said. "You came to reopen the venue." Leah folded the page once, then again. "So what happens now? You invite me because you want me in your home, and if I'm not ready, then we don't have Christmas together." Her face crumpled for 1 second before she mastered it. "All right," she said. She placed the folded paper in her purse and ate her salad. I ate the meatloaf. Neither of us pretended lunch was reconciliation, but neither of us left. Leah paid for lunch before I could. At the register, she told the waitress to put both meals on her card and added a tip large enough to suggest an apology of its own. "You didn't have to do that," I said outside. "I know." She pulled on her gloves. The wind blew a paper napkin across the parking lot, and both of us watched it catch beneath a parked truck. "What are you doing for Christmas?" she asked. "I haven't decided, Mom. She hasn't invited me." The relief on her face was immediate and painful. "Cal's back," I added. "From dry November?" I smiled. Apparently it followed him into December. She looked toward her car. "Owen's parents asked us to come to them. That could be nice. It could be 6 hours of his mother pretending Thanksgiving was a gas leak we all survived. Also festive. I'll let you know." "About what?" She opened her car door. "Christmas." I almost told her not to. Not because I didn't want the invitation, but because I didn't want the next 10 days to become another negotiation. Instead, I said, "All right." She nodded, got in, and drove away. Ben called that evening. "Tara and I are doing Christmas Eve," he said. "At your place? That's generally where we do things at our place." "I've been informed. We invited Leah and Owen." She said, "Maybe." Owen said yes before she kicked him under the table. "Your table is that transparent?" Owen has a loud face. I sat in the den with the phone against my ear and the brass clock ticking above the mantel. "What should I bring?" I asked. "Nothing." That's becoming a theme. Tara says wine is acceptable, but it can't be recycled from us. I have other sources. We eat at 6. I'll be there. He paused. "Okay." That single word held more surprise than it should have. Christmas Eve at Ben and Tara's was not perfect. It was better. Their dining table seated 6 if nobody needed elbows. Tara had borrowed 2 chairs from a neighbor, and one was low enough that Owen looked like he had been demoted. Ben roasted a beef tenderloin until the center was nearly raw, then returned it to the oven and forgot the rolls. Leah came. She brought a ham large enough for 15 people and 3 boxes of decorations. Within 10 minutes, she had moved Tara's candles, replaced the napkins, and asked whether the overhead light could be dimmed. Tara moved the candles back. "The wax drips there," she said. "I have trays. I like them here." Leah's hand hovered over the centerpiece. Then she withdrew it. Okay, nobody congratulated her. That mattered. I brought wine purchased that afternoon. I did not bring a tool bag, although I noticed the back door scraped the floor and the kitchen faucet dripped every 11 seconds. At dinner, Owen raised his glass. "To smaller tables," he said. Leah looked at him. He added, "and adequately cooked meat." Ben cut into the tenderloin. "This is medium. This animal could still vote," Tara said. We laughed, including Leah. There was no speech about family, no official reconciliation. Leah asked whether I wanted more potatoes and passed them before I answered. Ben showed me a set of photographs from the Hagerstown Library. I looked without suggesting anything. After dinner, Tara gave each of us a small box. Inside mine was a keychain shaped like a level. It had a bubble that did not work. "Accurate," I said. "Ben ordered 12 for his crew," she said. "Everyone is wrong. They're decorative. They're insulting." I clipped it to my keys. Leah watched me. "I didn't get you anything. We said no gifts." Apparently that meant small, ironic gifts. "I didn't get you anything either." She nodded, but hurt moved across her face. At the door, she hugged me. It was quick and awkward. One arm around my coat, her cheek near my shoulder. "Merry Christmas, Dad." "Merry Christmas." She left before Owen finished putting on his gloves. I drove home after 10. The farmhouse stood dark, but the sight no longer felt like a verdict. I turned on the tree lights in the den, poured 1 glass of wine, and ate a roll Tara had wrapped in foil. Elaine called at 11:15. "Are you awake?" "Yes." "Why, I'm 64, not 4. You used to fall asleep during movies at 9:30. Movies are designed poorly." "Peter found your pie in his freezer. That sounds like a personal issue. He wants to know how long it keeps, based on the crust, through the next administration." She laughed. We spoke for 20 minutes about nothing that needed speaking about. The theater staircase had collapsed before the actor stepped onto it. Marisol had given June a ceramic turkey, despite June's formal objections to seasonal decor. Ruth's leftover salmon had made her refrigerator smell like a fishing pier. When we ran out of stories, neither of us hung up immediately. "How was Ben's?" she asked. "Crowded." "Good?" "Yes." "Leah?" "She came. That wasn't what I asked. She tried." "So did you." I brought new wine. Remarkable growth. I ignored a dripping faucet for 4 hours. "Now I know you're lying." 11-second interval. "You counted?" "Of course." She became quiet. "What?" I asked. "Nothing." That sounded like something. "I'm glad you went." The warmth in her voice made me uncomfortable in a way I did not dislike. "Merry Christmas, Elaine." "Merry Christmas, Daniel." In January, the unfinished rocking chair moved from the east window to the center of the workshop. I sanded the walnut back slats, shaped the arms, and applied the first coat of oil. The grain darkened beneath the cloth, deep brown with narrow ribbons of gold. When the frame was dry, I sat in it. The chair tipped backward farther than expected. I grabbed the workbench and nearly overturned a jar of screws. "Excellent," I muttered. "A retirement catapult. The runners needed adjustment." I marked both ends, took them off, and began again. That was how Ben found me one Thursday afternoon. He stood in the barn doorway with snow on his shoulders and his hands in his coat pockets. "If that chair kills you," he said, "I'm telling people you bought it. It's a prototype." "For gravity?" I pointed toward the empty wall. "Your laser level is in the cabinet. I know. You left it for 6 weeks. I've been busy." He walked to the rocker and pressed one foot against a runner. "Too much curve, I'm aware. You could flatten the rear arc." "I'm aware." He nodded, enjoying himself. The pleasure disappeared when I asked, "How's the library?" "Fine." "Fine like finished?" "Fine like I'd rather discuss your defective furniture." I set down the sanding block. Ben walked to the east window. Outside, snow gathered in the ruts along the drive. The wall measurements changed, he said. Walls don't usually do that. The client removed paneling after I measured. There's brick behind it. How much variation? 3 inches at the worst point. I whistled. I templated the plaster, he said. The shelves were built for the plaster. Can you fur out the brick? They want it exposed now. Of course they do. They saw a picture online. The internet remains committed to destruction. He rubbed both hands over his face. How much have you built? I asked. All of it. The job was large. 4 floor-to-ceiling units, 2 curved corner sections, lower cabinets, crown molding. If the wall profile changed after fabrication, nearly every piece meeting it would need to be reworked. Change order, I said. The client says removing the paneling was included in the original scope. Was it? Not clearly, meaning. My contract says preparation of existing wall surfaces. That could mean anything. I know. Did you tell them the shelves were built to the original measurements? They think I should have anticipated what was behind the paneling. You couldn't. I told them. And they're willing to pay for materials, not labor. That's something. It's less than half. Ben opened my empty cabinet and looked inside. The laser-level case sat alone on the bottom shelf. I need the shaper, he said. I waited. To recut the rear edges, he added. Mine can't handle pieces that wide. All right, and the wide belt sander. All right, I'll bring everything Saturday. It may have to stay a couple weeks. That's fine. He nodded, still looking into the cabinet. What else? I asked. I need help. The words came so quietly I almost pretended not to hear them. What kind? I don't know yet. That's honest. He turned toward me. Don't make me regret asking. I won't. Don't take it over either. I wasn't going to. You already have the face. What face? The one where you've solved it and everybody else is slowing you down. I have not solved it. You've solved something. I was thinking we should build a full brick template and transfer the curve from the room, not from the old units. That was my idea. Then we agree. You said we. I looked at him. He looked back. The distinction sat between us. Help without rescue, welcome without assumption, work without turning the barn into proof that he loved me. You build the template, I said. I'll look at it if you ask. What if it's wrong? Then you'll build another. That costs time. Yes. And if I can't finish by the deadline, you tell the client. They'll be furious, probably. He gave me a look that told me he recognized Cal's influence. I thought help was supposed to reduce the problem, he said. It may. That's not confidence building. I can make the pieces fit, Ben. His shoulders lowered, relieved too soon. I continued. But if I do that for you, the next bad wall belongs to me, too. He stared at the rocker. You really are doing this now, he said. Doing what? Letting people fail. I'm letting you finish your own job. At a loss? Possibly. He kicked lightly at the runner. The chair rocked once, unevenly. I hate this version of you, he said. I'm not enjoying him all the time either. That earned a tired smile. He picked up the laser level, tucked the case under his arm, and walked toward the door. Saturday, he said. What time? 8. Ask. He closed his eyes. Can I use your workshop? Saturday at 8? Yes. Can I use the shaper? Yes. The sander? Yes. Can you be here? I looked around the barn, at the empty cabinet, the crooked rocker, the bench where his tools had lived for years. Yes, I said. I'd like to be here. This time, the relief on his face did not make me feel needed. It made me feel invited. Ben arrived Saturday with a trailer full of white oak and 2 men from his crew. He introduced them as Luis and Aaron, both adults old enough to look at the curve of my workshop wall and distrust it. Coffee's inside, I said. Ben nodded. We brought our own. I tried not to take that personally. They unloaded 4 built-in units, each wrapped in blankets, and set them on rolling dollies. The workmanship was good. Better than good. Ben had matched grain across the lower cabinet doors and milled the face frames so cleanly I had to search for the joints. You built these? I asked. He looked offended. Who'd you think did? You used to leave pencil marks under the finish. I was 19. You left one at 24. That was an artistic signature. Luis laughed. Ben pointed at him. You're hourly. Be careful. The first template leaned against the trailer wall. Ben had made it from thin plywood strips hot glued together in the shape of the exposed brick. I checked the joints without touching. Say it, he said. You asked me to look. I can see your forehead. What about it? It's doing math. I pointed to the upper left corner. That angle looks shallow. It matches the wall. Then it matches the wall. You don't believe me? I wasn't there. That has never stopped you before. He and Aaron carried the template into the workshop. I switched on the shaper and stood back. For the first hour, I gave no advice. This required nearly all my strength. Ben transferred the profile onto the back of the first face frame. Aaron helped support the unit while Ben cut. Luis used the wide belt sander to creep up on the line. They worked slowly and well. At 10:30, Ben held the recut unit against the template. A gap opened near the crown. He swore. The template shifted, Luis said. It was clamped, Ben replied. Not there. Ben looked at me. I drank my coffee. You see it? He said. Yes. Where? You didn't ask me before the cut. I'm asking now. The hot glue joint opened at the corner. He examined it and found the hairline separation. How much? He asked. 3/8 here, maybe half an inch at the wall. He closed his eyes. Aaron said, We can add a filler. Client doesn't want fillers, Ben replied. Clients don't want lots of things they can't see. Ben looked at the unit, then at me. What would you do? Build another template. We have 3 more units, then you'll get faster. The house is an hour away. I'm aware of geography. We can repair this one. Probably. How? I turned the coffee cup between my hands. Ben's frustration rose. You said you'd help. I am. You're standing there. You asked what I would do. I'd rebuild the template at the wall. He pushed both hands through his hair. That burns half a day. The first template burned more. Luis and Aaron studied different sections of ceiling. Ben walked outside. I wanted to follow. Instead, I asked the other 2 whether they wanted more coffee. Luis accepted. Aaron said he had quit caffeine, but took a cup anyway. Ben returned 10 minutes later, carrying the damaged template. I'm going back to Hagerstown, he said. Luis, come with me. Aaron, start stripping the back cuts off Unit 2. Then he looked at me. Can the trailer stay here? Yes. Can Aaron use the sander? Yes. Can you show him the dust gate? It sticks. Yes. Every request cost him something. Every yes cost me something different. He returned after one with a heavier template built from 1/4-inch plywood. He had added diagonal braces at every corner. This one won't move, he said. It'll be heavy. It's not furniture. The new shape transferred cleanly. By 6, the first 2 units matched. At 8, Tara arrived with sandwiches and found us arguing about crown molding. Are you 2 having fun? She asked. No, we said together. Good. I'd hate for this to become sentimental. The job took 4 Saturdays and most evenings. Ben paid Luis and Aaron for every hour. He bought replacement stock for 2 face frames. The client paid for materials but refused the added labor, citing the vague contract. Ben could have fought. He decided the time would cost more than he might recover. He finished 6 days late and made almost nothing. When he came to collect the last clamps, he placed a folded sheet of paper on my bench. What's this? I asked. New contract language. It specified that concealed conditions, wall changes, and client-directed demolition required a written change order. Good, I said. I paid a lawyer to read it. Also good. You could sound sorry about the money. I am. You also look pleased. I'm pleased you won't lose it the same way twice. He walked to the rocker. It was upright near the east window, the runners corrected and the back fitted, but one arm held a shallow diagonal gouge. Ben ran his thumb across it. That was me, he said. What was? The gouge. I had assumed I caused it while moving the frame. When? Before Thanksgiving. I caught it on the corner of the workbench when I moved it. You told me you were careful. I lied. About a chair? I didn't want you mad. That went well. He examined the mark. I can steam it out. I can too. I made it. I handed him the iron. He spent 40 minutes raising the crushed fibers, sanding the arm, and blending fresh oil into the walnut. The repair remained visible if you knew where to look. Ben frowned at it. It won't disappear, he said. No. I could sand the whole arm down. Then it wouldn't match the other one. So, we leave it? We stop before the repair does more damage than the gouge. He looked at me. That sounded rehearsed, he said. I've had practice. When he finished, he carried his nail gun back into the workshop. Can I keep this here? He asked. Yes. Compressor 2? No. Why? It leaks. It does not. It lost 10 pounds overnight. That was the hose. Then fix the hose. He grinned. All right. One red toolbox returned to the wall. Not the shelf, cabinet, and machinery that had accumulated around it, just the box, placed there with permission. Elaine came to see the rocker in March. She sat in it cautiously, both hands on the arms. Does this one launch people? She asked. Only uninvited guests. Then I'm safe? You were invited. She rocked twice. The chair moved smoothly, stopping at exactly the angle I intended. It's beautiful, she said. Leah thought it needed a second one. Does it? I don't know. You always built pairs. Dining chairs come in pairs. So do bookends. And arguments. She looked up at me. Are we arguing? I'm preparing. That was always your favorite stage. We had seen each other several times since Thanksgiving. Coffee after one of her rehearsals. Dinner with Peter and Ruth. A theater production in which the staircase collapsed correctly and the actor forgot to step on it. Nothing had been named. I no longer asked what each meeting meant. Elaine no longer reminded me not to. She ran her hand along the repaired arm. What happened here? Ben moved it without asking. Anne repaired it? Yes. Did you let him? I watched from 10 feet away and suffered. That may be the most romantic thing you've ever said. I was hoping the chair might impress you. It does. And me? She rocked again. You're improving. I'm 64. There's still time. The answer was not a promise. It was better than one made too early. Spring changed the farmhouse. The maples leafed out. Rain softened the yard. I began taking walks in the evening instead of circling the property looking for work. I visited Ben and Tara often enough that their back door stopped scraping before I repaired it. Tara repaired it herself. She made me hold the flashlight. Leah did not visit. She answered group messages, sent birthday cards, and called once when Owen was traveling to ask whether I knew a good plumber. I gave her a name and did not offer to come. In June, she sent a photograph of the repaired sink. Look, she wrote. Nobody died, I replied. Proud of you. She did not answer, but the message showed she had read it. Owen came alone one afternoon in August. He brought back the electric warming tray, which had apparently remained in their garage since Thanksgiving. I thought Leah returned everything, I said. She thought so too. Did you hide this? I forgot it existed. He set it on the kitchen table. How are you and Grant? I asked. Uncomfortable. That sounds promising. We meet for coffee once a month. He doesn't trust me. Should he? Not yet. I like the answer. Owen looked toward the dining room. Leah wants to come by. She knows the way. She thinks you'll expect an apology. I've stopped expecting things from Leah. He winced. That sounded harsher than I meant. It sounded accurate. I hated hearing my own weapon returned. What does she want? I asked. She says nothing. That's unlikely. I said the same thing. He took his keys from his pocket. She's been seeing a counselor. I felt an immediate and inappropriate relief, as if a professional had been assigned to repair my daughter. Owen saw it. Don't, he said. I didn't say anything. Your face took out a clipboard. What am I supposed to do with that information? Nothing. I probably shouldn't have told you. No. At the door, he turned back. She misses you. I miss her too. Then why haven't you called? Because I'm tired of being the person who makes every silence end. Owen nodded slowly. Fair. It did not feel fair after he left. 3 days later, Leah knocked, not entered, knocked. When I opened the door, she held no bag, no coffee, no folder, and no legal pad. I was nearby, she said. You live 40 minutes away. I was nearby badly. I stepped aside. She walked into the kitchen and looked around. The paper place card no longer sat by the calendar. I had put it in the desk drawer in February, not because it mattered less, but because I no longer needed to see it every morning. Coffee? I asked. Yes. She sat while I made it. I expected her to fill the silence. She didn't. When I placed the mug in front of her, she said, The farmhouse was the last place where we were all together before Mom left. I sat opposite her. I mean before we knew, the Thanksgiving before. Everything looked normal. Everything wasn't. I know that now. She wrapped both hands around the mug. When she left, you stayed here. The furniture stayed. The dishes stayed. The terrible brass clock stayed. It's an excellent clock. It's hideous. Continue. Her eyes shone, but she did not look away. I thought if I could keep the holidays the same, then the family was still here. I wasn't using the house instead of loving you. She swallowed. I was using you to keep the house from admitting Mom was gone. The sentence hurt without accusing me. That made it harder to escape. I let you, I said. You didn't know. I knew you cried whenever anything changed. I made sure nothing did. You were trying to help. I was trying not to be blamed. She looked down. I made your mother take the blame for leaving, I said. Then I let you comfort me so I wouldn't have to ask why she had. Leah's tears fell into her coffee. I stayed in my chair. Not because I didn't want to hold her, because for once, I wanted to let her finish before I made her pain easier for me. I'm sorry, she said. There was no but. No mention of Christmas, a caterer, or a room. I'm sorry too, I said. She wiped her face with both hands and laughed weakly. This is awful. Yes, I don't feel better. That may take time. I hate when Mom says that. She's usually right. Leah looked up sharply, then saw my smile. Her own came slowly. I'm not ready to have you over, she said. All right, I still feel like you'll walk in and see everything wrong. I will, Dad. I'll try not to say it. That's not comforting. It's honest. She took a breath. I want to get ready, she said. Not for a holiday, just dinner. I nodded. When you are, I said. She finished her coffee. We talked for another hour without solving Thanksgiving, the divorce, or each other. When she left, she hugged me with both arms. At the end of the drive, she lowered her window. Don't make plans for the second Sunday in September, she called. Why? I'm going to invite you somewhere. Where? My house. For what? She smiled, nervous and determined. Dinner. 6 people. No matching chairs. Then she drove away before I could say yes. I said yes by text before she reached home. She replied with a thumbs up, deleted it, then sent, thank you. 2 weeks later, I stood outside her townhouse holding one apple pie. Leah had specifically asked for pie. That made it legal. Her front steps were lined with small pots of herbs, most of them alive. Through the window, I could see Owen setting plates on the table. He moved one, studied it, then moved it back. I knocked. Leah opened the door, wearing jeans and a blue sweater. No camel coat, no event planner smile. You came, she said. You gave me a date and address. You know the address. I wanted to acknowledge the professionalism. She hugged me before I entered. The house was clean but not staged. A stack of magazines leaned beneath the coffee table. Owen's shoes sat beside the stairs. A folded exercise mat occupied one dining chair, and Leah picked it up without apologizing. Where should I put the pie? I asked. She looked toward the kitchen. Then she caught herself. Wherever you want. That's too much freedom. Counter, please. I set it beside a bowl of salad. The chicken in the oven smelled slightly overdone. A pot boiled hard enough to shake its lid. You need to lower that, I said. Leah pointed at me with a wooden spoon. That was involuntary. Try harder. I put both hands in my pockets. The doorbell rang. Ben and Tara arrived carrying wine and flowers. Tara kissed Leah, handed her the bouquet, then inspected the dining table. 6 chairs, she said. Bold. One came from the bedroom, Leah replied. Which one? The chair Owen throws clothes on. Owen entered from the kitchen. I hang clothes, you build fabric hills. The 4 of them began arguing about whether clothing draped over furniture counted as hanging. I stood near the doorway and listened. Nobody asked me to settle it. The bell rang again. Leah went still. I looked at her. 6 people, I said. I told you. You, Owen, Ben, Tara, me. I can count. She opened the door. Elaine stood outside, holding nothing. Her eyes found mine over Leah's shoulder. Oh, I said. That sounds welcoming, she replied. Leah stepped aside. I invited Dad first. The explanation was directed at her mother. Elaine nodded. All right. Then I invited you. All right. I thought you should both know. You're telling us now? I asked. I knew you'd overthink it. She learned that from you, Elaine said. You both came. Apparently she learned that from me, I said. Leah closed the door. Can we survive one meal before forming teams? No promises, Ben called from the dining room. Elaine hugged Tara, kissed Ben's cheek, and greeted Owen with a warmth that still surprised me. For years I had imagined the divorce splitting every relationship cleanly. In reality, people kept loving one another through side doors. The The seating was random. Leah did not use place cards. She put the serving dishes on the table and said, "Sit wherever there's a fork." I chose a chair beside Ben. Elaine sat across from me, between Tara and Owen. Leah took the mismatched bedroom chair, which was 3 inches taller than the others. The chicken was dry. The potatoes had too much garlic. Tara brought wine that nobody liked. Ben told a long story about a client who wanted a hidden door in a load-bearing wall. Elaine described Peter accidentally building a theater bench too narrow for the actors. Halfway through dinner, a drop of water fell from the ceiling into the salad. Everyone looked up. Another drop landed beside it. Owen closed his eyes. Bathroom. Leah started to rise. I started faster, then stopped. 5 faces turned toward me. "I know where the shutoff is," Owen said. I sat down. He went upstairs. A minute later, the dripping stopped. Leah stared at the wet salad. "We have another bowl," she said. She carried it into the kitchen without falling apart. Nobody asked me to inspect the ceiling. When Owen returned, his sleeve was wet. "Loose supply fitting," he said. I tightened it. "By hand?" I asked, with a wrench. "What kind?" Elaine kicked me beneath the table. "Ow." "Guessed," she said. "I was discussing tools. You were circling." Ben raised his glass. "He's improving. I regret introducing any of you." Leah returned with a smaller salad. "You were right about the faucet lines," Owen told me. "I usually am." "He bought 3 kinds," Leah said. "None fit. I was denied photographs. He went back twice. Tradition matters." We ate the replacement salad. After pie, Leah brought out coffee. She placed mine in front of me, black without asking. Elaine's had milk. Ben's had too much sugar. Tara declined and received tea with the bag already in it. Leah remembered how everybody took things. She simply had not always remembered to ask what else they needed. At the door, I told her dinner was good. The chicken was terrible. It was dry. "You're supposed to lie. I came to your house. I didn't become someone else." She looked pleased. "Thanksgiving is in 2 months," she said. I waited. "We're going to Owen's parents." "All right, I'm telling you, so you don't think I'm asking for the farmhouse." "I didn't." "You wondered. I did." She smiled. "Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me." It was the first exchange between us in years that did not carry a hidden object from one house to another. Elaine was waiting beside my truck. "You didn't bring a centerpiece," she said. "I brought pie." "You were asked. That improved the experience." She tucked her hands into her coat pockets. "Leah did well." "Yes. So did you." "I ignored plumbing. I saw. You kicked me." I prevented a relapse. The street was quiet. Light from Leah's dining room stretched across the lawn. "Would you like coffee?" I asked. "We just had coffee. Another day." Elaine looked toward the house. "Yes," she said. "Another day." We did not return to our marriage. There was no announcement, no tearful dinner where we agreed the lost years had been necessary. We met for coffee. I attended her plays. She came to the farmhouse and read in the rocker while I worked. Sometimes we argued. The difference was that neither of us pretended the argument was something else. By the following August, people had begun asking about Thanksgiving. Not my family, other people. Cal said his sister expected him in Arizona again and asked whether dry heat could become a religious obligation. Peter wanted to know if his torch remained banned. Ruth announced she had found a turkey recipe she might tolerate, though she intended to bring salmon as insurance. I looked at the dining room and realized I wanted noise in it. Wanting was different from owing. I called Leah first. "I'm thinking of hosting Thanksgiving," I said. There was a pause. "Do you want help?" "Yes." Another pause, even longer. "With what?" "Planning the food, maybe flowers." "Guest list?" "I've made one. Tables, one, linens. Use what I have." I heard her inhale. "Are you sure you want me involved?" "Yes." "Okay." She did not take over. That may have required more courage than the apology. The guest list grew to 11. Leah and Owen, Ben and Tara, Elaine, Marisol and June, Peter, Ruth, and me. Grant and Marcus declined because they were spending the holiday with Grant's parents, but Owen no longer needed a perfect room to make one conversation happen. He and Grant were still meeting monthly. Trust was returning in amounts too small to photograph. On Thanksgiving morning, Leah arrived at 9 with 2 flower arrangements. She stood at the side door holding one in each hand. "Can I come in?" "You have flowers." That isn't an answer. "Yes." She entered. The arrangements were low, mostly branches and deep red leaves, no cream roses, no eucalyptus hiding the clock. "Where do you want them?" she asked. "One on the dining table, one in the den." She put them exactly there. Ben arrived next with Tara and a compressor in the truck. "Can I put this in the barn?" he asked. "Why did you bring a compressor?" Peter said something about building a dessert display. Peter leaned out of the kitchen. I said plating. "The compressor stays in the truck," I said. Ben looked relieved. Nobody hired a bartender. Nobody rented matching chairs. We used dining chairs, desk chairs, and the tall bedroom chair Leah brought from home. Tara made gravy. Peter carved the turkey with the knife right side up. Ruth's salmon occupied a place of honor beside it. Elaine arrived early enough to help, but late enough that I had already found the serving bowls. She stood beside me at the front door when Marisol and June came up the walk. Marisol looked from her sister to me. "What is this?" "A doorway," I said. "I mean this arrangement." Elaine took her coat. "Enter the house, Marisol. No one tells me anything." June kissed my cheek. We're all grateful. At 4, we sat down. There were no place cards. For one brief second, I felt the old panic. Had I forgotten ice? Were the potatoes cooling? Did everyone have what they needed? If I stood up now, I could spend the meal moving between kitchen and table and never risk being only another person in the room. Then Ben passed me the stuffing. Leah asked whether I wanted white meat or dark. Elaine poured my wine. I stayed seated. After dinner, the others carried dishes into the kitchen. I went to the barn for more firewood and found Ben near the east window. He was examining the rocker. "Arm still looks good," he said. "It does." "You ever make the second one?" "No." "Why not?" I looked toward the house. Through the workshop window, I could see people moving past the dining room, familiar shapes crossing warm light. "One chair doesn't always look lonely," I said. Ben nodded as if that made sense. We carried the wood inside. Later, when the fire had burned low and everybody was finding coats, Leah stopped beside the mantel. The brass clock ticked above us. "Good Thanksgiving?" she asked. "Very. Even without matching napkins, they matched enough." She hugged me. Across the room, Elaine was straightening the wreath Peter had knocked sideways. Ben asked before taking leftovers. Tara told him that asking did not guarantee he was entitled to all the stuffing. Owen carried the borrowed bedroom chair toward his car. Nothing had returned to normal. That was the best part. When the last guests were gone, Elaine remained beside the open door. Cold air entered the farmhouse. Behind us were dirty dishes, half a pie, crooked chairs, and more work than I wanted to do that night. "You should close that," she said. In a minute, I looked down the drive where Leah's taillights disappeared beyond the maples. A year earlier, I had locked this house and driven away because my family wanted the rooms without the man inside them. I had thought choosing Elaine's invitation meant choosing one side over another. It had not. It meant choosing the one chair offered without a price, then learning to offer and accept the same thing. Elaine slipped her hand into mine. I closed the door, but I didn't lock it.